Chapter 428 All-Purpose Chaotic Origin Energy. Light Element Control. You should feel it, right? Nazario sent a telepathic message to Auguste. I feel it. An extremely terrifying dragon bloodline is forming in this cocoon of light. A terrifying bloodline of this level is enough to make me tremble in fear, just from a trace of its aura. I can't help but want to submit to it. Auguste said with a trembling voice. I feel the same way you do. Strange. In my inherited memories of the dragon race, even a yellow gold tier divine dragon would be inferior to such a bloodline. What kind of dragon bloodline did my lord encounter? Nazario's tone revealed deep confusion. The inheritance of the dragon race was vast and profound. There were fewer and fewer things in this world that could make a pure-blooded dragon unable to find an answer. However, it could not be blamed. Legendary dragons were extremely rare even among pure-blooded dragons. A pure-blooded dragon might live for tens of thousands of years, but they might not even be able to encounter a legendary dragon. Most of the time, they would only hear about their legends. Therefore, it was normal that Nazario and Auguste could not recognize the bloodline aura of the light sacred dragon. In the time that followed, Nazario and Auguste did not leave. Instead, they stayed here as guardians and quietly waited for their master to wake up. Half an hour later, crack, crack, crack. Cracks gradually appeared on the giant cocoon of light between Nazario and Auguste, accompanied by cracking sounds. Then more and more cracks appeared, growing larger and larger. A figure finally appeared. It was Jojo. At this moment, Jojo was wearing a white light sacred dragon armor with golden edges. He had a white holy crown with golden edges on his head. His body emitted a faint and terrifying dragon pressure, looking like a natural dragon saint. Jojo opened his eyes. It was a pair of eyes that emitted a resplendent white light. It looked like two suns standing in Jojo's eyes. A text notification appeared. You have absorbed one legendary dragon, light sacred dragon, bloodline enhanceable. Unique. Your chaos human bloodline has unearthed even more potential. Your sixth senses powers have been greatly enhanced. You have awakened the Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable Chaos Human Race Talent. Chaos Enhanced Chaos Human Race Talent. You have awakened the Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable Light Sacred Dragon Talent. Light Element Control. You have awakened the Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable Light Sacred Dragon Talent. The Might of the Sacred Dragon. You have awakened the Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable Light Sacred Dragon Talent. Holy Flame Dragon Breath. Your racial talent, Chaos Intimidation, Epic Tier Advanced Grade. Under the influence of the Holy Dragon's might, Master God Tier Advanced Grade, you have been promoted to Chaos Intimidation, Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Your racial talent, Chaotic Breath, Epic Tier Advanced Grade. Under the influence of Holy Flame Dragon Breath, Master God Tier Advanced Grade, you have been promoted to Chaotic Breath, Master God Tier Advanced Grade. You have grasped the legendary dragon race's secret inheritance. You have mastered the Master God Advanced Grade racial skill, Light Sacred Dragon Armor. You have mastered the Master God Advanced Grade racial skill, Light Sacred Dragon Crown. You have mastered the Master God Tier Advanced Grade Law skill, Absolute Light. You have mastered the Master God Tier Advanced Grade racial skill, Master God Level Physical Immunity, Awakening Level, 1%. You have mastered the Master God tier Elemental Immunity, 1% Awake. You have mastered the Master God tier Advanced Grade Racial Skill, Master God Level Physical Immunity, Awakening Level, 1%. Jojo looked at these skills and could not help but take a deep breath. It turned out that in the eyes of the Supreme Will, the bloodline of the Light Sacred Dragon was actually the top bloodline of a Master God tier Advanced Grade. It was only one step away from the legendary Supreme God realm. Jojo suddenly had an idea. According to the description in the dragon inheritance in his mind, it was not that the light sacred dragon's bloodline potential could not reach supremacy, but if it wanted to reach supremacy, it could not be determined by the bloodline. This was because there was no Supreme God realm potential life form in this world. Master God tier advanced grade potential. It was already the strongest potential that all life forms could reach. Then he looked at these awakened abilities. Race talent name, Chaotic Origin Energy, Talent level, Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable, talent description 1. The Chaos humans possess Chaos origin energy and can control any form of energy, including elemental energy, martial artist internal energy, void origin energy, blood force, and so on. Talent description 2. The Chaos humans possess the Chaotic origin energy. Chaotic origin energy is an all-purpose power that can drive any ability that requires any energy to operate. When Jojo saw this talent, he nodded. This talent was extremely useful to him. This was because he had too many skills now. There was no lack of skills that required other types of energy. Jojo did not think too much about it back when he was learning skills. He learned all kinds of skills with the idea of learning as much as he could. However, the energy in his body could not be converted at any time, which caused him to have different types of energy in his body, but none of them were in abundance. Simply put, Jojo knew all kinds of abilities, but he did not use them multiple times. Jojo would not be able to use such skills again very quickly once he used these skills. This was because he had used up all the energy to activate such skills, so he naturally could not continue using them. But now that he had this Chaotic origin energy, it was different. He could transform any form of energy in his body into a unified Chaotic origin energy, and then use this Chaotic origin energy to drive any form of skill, be it the abilities of the Chaos humans, elemental spells, blood race talents, martial artist cultivation techniques. He could even use Chaotic origin energy. This was naturally very convenient for someone like Jojo, who had learned a lot of skills. Furthermore, Jojo felt that this Chaos human talent was not as easy as he appeared to be. Maybe this Chaotic origin ability talent would have an even greater and more unexpected effect in the later parts of his development. As for the Master God tier advanced grade, enhanceable grade of this skill, it naturally did not mean that its power had already reached the level of a Master God tier advanced grade. It meant that the upper limit of its skill potential was at the Master God tier advanced grade. For example, Jojo had the strength of a Diamond tier elementary grade. He could only unleash the strength and effect of a Diamond tier elementary grade. However, as Jojo's strength increased, the strength and effect of this race talent would also increase. Only when Jojo grew to the Master God tier advanced grade would its potential be exhausted. Jojo was naturally very satisfied with this. Then he looked at the next talent. Race talent name, Light element control. Talent level, Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable. Talent description. Your cultivation talent for the light element is like the law of light descending into the world as a life form. No life form can compare to you. You can easily comprehend the skills and abilities of the light element, and even the nomological abilities of the light element. You can even easily condense the top-notch light elemental divinity when you attain legendary tier advanced grade. After Jojo saw this talent, there was only one thought left in his mind. I can become stronger just by lying down. Chapter 429 Nomological Skill. Absolute Light. Acknowledge the light sacred dragon as its master. Jojo could not help but look at this talent a few more times. Then he sighed in his heart. This race talent was too strong. With this talent, it basically announced that he had already obtained the pass to become a god. Becoming a god was a certainty as long as he did not die midway. Low-tier deity would not be his destination. With the potential of the light sacred dragon bloodline, he might even be able to reach the true god tier or master god tier. As expected of the bloodline left behind by the light sacred dragon, it was indeed strong. Jojo sighed in his heart for a long time before looking at the next talent. Race talent name, Sacred Dragon Might. Talent level, Master God tier advanced grade. Enhanceable. Talent description. As a legendary dragon, the light sacred dragon possesses a powerful dragon might that is exclusive to itself. Not only can this dragon might intimidate all life forms of all races, it can even intimidate non-legendary dragons. Moreover, the light sacred dragon's dragon might has a great restraining effect on death, shadow rays, corrosion, and other types of chaotic elementals. When facing low-level chaotic elemental creatures, it can even directly use the dragon might to kill them. It can even intimidate the dragon clan? Jojo clicked his tongue in wonder. The dragon might of normal dragons did not have much effect on their own kind. Just like Nazario and Auguste. Even though Nazario was stronger than Auguste, the dragon might it released was useless against Auguste. He did not expect the light sacred dragon's dragon might to be able to deter the dragons. As expected of the bloodline of a legendary dragon, Zhou sighed for the umpteenth time. Then he looked at the next talent. Race talent name, Holy Flame Dragon Breath. Talent level, Master God Tier Advanced Grade, Enhanceable. Talent description. One of the most powerful dragon breaths among the dragons. It comes from the legendary dragon, the light sacred dragon. It can easily suppress the dragon breath of non-legendary dragons, and has a great restraining effect on death, shadow rays, corrosion and other chaotic elementals. Zhou nodded slightly. He was a little surprised. This light sacred dragon's abilities were really targeted at chaotic elemental creatures. However, he has mastered it now. Now he could even say that he was the nemesis of Unholy. The following Chaos Intimidation and Chaos Breath were similar to the information from the Chaos Intimidation and Chaos Breath. However, the upper limit of his talent potential had been raised to the Master God Tier Advanced Grade, allowing Zhou to have 2 more racial talents that he could use for the rest of his life. Then he looked at the next 2 racial skills. Racial skill name, Light Sacred Dragon Armor. Skill quality, Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Racial skill description. Condense the power of the light law and form an indestructible holy dragon armor on the surface of the body. This armor can easily resist physical attacks, elemental attacks, soul attacks, and other attacks of the same level. It is also immune to light elemental attacks of the same level. At the same time, the light sacred dragon armor can increase the wearer's current physical fitness by 3 times. Racial skill name, Light Sacred Dragon Crown. Skill quality, Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Racial skill description. Condense the power of the light law and form a holy dragon crown on the head. This crown represents the supreme status of the light sacred dragon. The holy dragon crown can increase the power of light spells by 3 times. Moreover, when attacking chaos elemental creatures, the power of light spells will double again. Zhou nodded. Light Sacred Dragon Armor was mainly for defense, while the Light Sacred Dragon Crown was in charge of assisting in offensive attacks. The effects were not bad. Then he looked at the next awakened ability. Law skill, Absolute Light. When Zhou saw this skill, he could not help but think of the Shepherd's God race he had encountered on the Lord battlefield previously. While there were very few members of the Shepherd's God race, only a handful of them in all, Zhou and his tens of thousands of troops were having a tough time fighting back them. The key was that the Shepherd's God race had grasped the nomological powers. He also had the power of the laws now. He would be more confident if he met the Shepherd's God race again. Law skill name, Absolute Light. Law skill quality, Master God Tier Advanced Grade. Introduction to the law skills. Manipulate the power of the law of light so that a certain place would be in a state of absolute light. Any chaotic elements such as death, shadow, and corrosion cannot appear in this space of absolute light. It can also be used in scarlet fog for survival and action, so that a certain range around yourself will not be invaded by the scarlet fog. Zhou looked at the description at the top and felt that it was nothing. However, his eyes widened as he continued reading. Survival and movement in the scarlet fog. Absolute light actually had such an effect. Zhou was also extremely surprised. Didn't that mean that his knights would no longer be the world of the fog creatures with this law skill? With this absolute light law skill, he could also lead an army and move at night, or even engage in war. There was only one thought in Zhou's mind. A divine skill. This was definitely a divine skill for him currently. Moreover, it was a rather practical divine skill. As expected of a law skill, it had given him such a big surprise the moment it came up. As for the last 3 racial skills, Master God Tier Physical Immunity, Master God Tier Elemental Immunity, and Master God Tier Soul Immunity, the meaning was just as they described. It could allow Zhou to increase his defense against physical, elemental, and soul attacks. The effects of these 3 racial skills would continue to increase as Zhou's strength increased, until Zhou reached the Master God tier advanced grade. At this moment, the effects of these 3 racial skills would continue to increase as Zhou's strength increased, until Zhou reached the Master God tier advanced grade. Nazario and Auguste's physical immunity, elemental immunity, and soul immunity were only at the epic tier after all. But Zhou was at Master God tier. The difference was too great. The bloodline foundation of the legendary dragon race was ordinary. After figuring out the benefits of his bloodline, Zhou's gaze landed on the white egg in front of him. I should be able to make it recognize me as its master now, right? Zhou thought. He looked hesitant, but in the end, he decided to give it a try. He stretched out his right hand and placed it directly above the white egg. Then he willed. Drops of blood essence seeped out from his right index finger and landed on the surface of the giant egg. At this moment, Zhou's powerful 6 senses almost immediately sensed that there was an ignorant and powerful soul in the huge egg. It was the soul of the unborn light sacred dragon. In the beginning, he could sense that the light sacred dragon refused to absorb his blood essence to recognize him as its master. However, in the next moment, a surprising scene appeared. The light sacred dragon's soul seemed to have sensed that Zhou's blood essence seemed to be very close to its aura, like the blood of an elder of its race. This made it involuntarily feel a sense of intimacy with the owner of the blood. The light sacred dragon had yet to be born, and its consciousness was still not very clear after all. It would follow the guidance in its bloodline and reject the request of an unfamiliar life form without hesitation. However, when it realized that the owner of the blood should be very close to it, it immediately let down its guard and intimately accepted Zhou's request to recognize it as its master. Then it prepared to come into being. In reality, crack, 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 the sound of eggshells shattering could be heard. Chapter 430 Light Sacred Dragon, Ingersoll. A mighty dragon with a pure white crown on its head and a body emitting a faint white light walked out of the eggshell in no time. It was born 4 to 5 meters tall. The first thing it saw when it came out was Zhou. Its pale golden dragon eyes suddenly lit up, and it roared excitedly. Zhou understood the dragon language and knew that the other party was calling him master. Zhou smiled and said telepathically, "Eat the eggshell first." The eggshells of dragons contained substances that were closest to the source of their bodies. Eating the eggshells was very beneficial to any dragon, even if it was a legendary dragon. When the light sacred dragon heard this, it nodded obediently. Then it turned around and went to its eggshell, obediently eating it. Zhou took this opportunity to look at the other party's attributes. Pet, Ingersoll race, legendary dragon, light sacred dragon growth stage, infancy, strength level, yellow gold tier advanced grade, skills. Holy flame dragon breath, holy dragon might, divine body of law light. Law skill absolute light, detect chaos, chaos suppression, light judgment, dark energy burning, holy rescue, holy dragon judgment cannon, draconic magic mastery, light elemental magic mastery, light sacred dragon armor, light sacred dragon crown, master god tier elemental immunity, awakening level 1%, master god tier physical immunity, awakening level 1%. Master God tier soul immunity, awakening level 1%. Potential, Master God tier advanced grade world limit. Loyalty, 100 dead loyal. Personality, calm sense of justice, sweet tooth, lively, kind, sympathetic to the weak. Pet description, a legendary dragon among pure-blooded dragons, a unique existence in the myriad worlds. It holds the ultimate power of light. In terms of potential, it can be called one of the incarnations of the law of light in the myriad worlds. Zhou's eyes widened as he looked at the list of stats. Good God! There were so many powerful skills in the skill pane. The most ridiculous thing was that this guy was born at yellow gold tier advanced grade. When Nazario was just born, it was only a green bronze tier elementary grade. Zhou thought of Nazario's slow upgrading process and how he had to consume a calamity crossing spirit pill to become a yellow gold tier advanced grade. He could not help but feel jealous. This light sacred dragon was so talented that it made humans jealous. But then he realized, what was there to be jealous about? No matter how talented the light sacred dragon was, it was still his pet now. Thinking of this, Jojo smiled. Other than that, what surprised Jojo was that this little guy actually had its own name as soon as it was born. Ingersoll. It sounded quite handsome, unlike Nazario and Auguste, whose names he had given. At the same time, Nazario and Auguste were also staring stiffly at the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, which was eating the eggshell. The two pure-blooded dragons received a notification from their bloodlines and got to know the other party's identity the moment it walked out of the eggshell. The legendary dragon race. Even the dragon god would have to be respectful to an adult legendary dragon if it was alive. Once a legendary dragon grew up, its strength was enough to be called the strongest foundation and backing of the dragon race after all. Dragons had also experienced several crises over the ages. When the dragon god could not resolve a crisis of this level, it was a legendary dragon like the light sacred dragon who appeared and saved the entire dragon race. They never expected that the dragon their lord had encountered was actually the legendary dragon. Moreover, he had even taken it as a pet. Their lord's body was actually emitting the aura of the dragon bloodline that was almost of the same origin as this legendary dragon. This made them both shocked and puzzled. Wasn't there only one legendary dragon in the myriad worlds? Why did they sense the bloodline aura on his body? The two dragons wanted to ask, but they were too embarrassed to say it, because they knew that this might involve their lord's secret. At the same time, Jojo looked at the light sacred dragon, which was eating the eggshell, and had similar doubts. He thought for a moment, and got someone to bring over another ordinary light spirit dragon's corpse. He looked at the light spirit dragon's corpse, and realized that its spoils of war were exactly the same as the light spirit dragon lord's. It was just that there were no Lord Talent crystal fragments. Jojo placed his hand on it and extracted it. Lord Talent notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the title of Strongest Lord. The number of loots has increased by 20%. Lord Talent notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 36 Mist Cores, White Platinum tier. 1 Skill Book Dragon Light Spiritual Fire, Yellow Gold Elementary grade. 1 Skill Book Light Spirit Body, Yellow Gold Elementary grade. 1 Bloodline, Light Spirit Dragon Bloodline, Low Tier Deity Advanced grade. 1 Dragon Egg, Low Tier Deity Advanced grade. 1 Race Skill Book, Special Light Element Control, Enhanceable. 1 Race Talent Ball, Low Tier Deity Advanced grade. Jojo looked at the pile of loots in front of him and shook his head. As expected, the light sacred dragon's spoils of war would only drop once. Even if the other light spirit dragons were exactly the same as the light spirit dragon lord's spoils of war, after the quality of the King of Loots increased by 1, it would only increase by 1. He did not obtain a more intrinsic improvement. So, there can indeed only be one light sacred dragon. As for the light sacred dragon bloodline in my body, it's only a bloodline. I didn't become another light sacred dragon. I'm still essentially a chaos human. Jojo thought to himself. He felt that his deduction should be correct. Then he stopped thinking and looked at the other loots. Skill name, Dragon Light Sacred Fire. Skill quality, Enhanceable. Unique. Skill description, Extreme Light Flame. It contains a trace of the holy flame power from the light sacred dragon. It has a great restraining effect on death, shadow rays, corrosion, and other chaotic elemental creatures. Skill name, Light Sacred Body. Skill quality, Enhanceable, Unique. Skill description. After using it, one can have a special physique, Light Sacred Body. The Light Sacred Body has an extraordinary talent in the light elemental laws, and can be said to be the favorite of the light laws. Moreover, the owner of the Light Sacred Body can easily reach the limit of ordinary life forms, Legendary Tier Advanced grade. There is even a chance of becoming a god. Racial skill name, Special Light Element Control. Skill quality, Enhanceable. Unique. Skill description. After using it, the user will have extraordinary learning talent for the light element. Moreover, they will have the ability to control the light element that is comparable to a master. The light element will be like a toy on the tip of the finger to the user. The user can perform all kinds of unbelievable operating techniques. Chapter 431 Final Items. The Compass of the Soul of Vengeance. Zhou shook his head. He could tell the makeup of these 3 skills at a glance, with the legendary tier dragon race's secret inheritance. Among them, the Dragon Light Sacred Fire was equivalent to a weakened version of the Holy Flame Dragon Breath. The Light Sacred Body and Special Light Element Control were equivalent to a greatly weakened version of the Light Sacred Dragon Bloodline. Zhou was now the owner of the Light Sacred Dragon Bloodline, and could be said to be a humanoid Light Sacred Dragon. Naturally, he was not interested in these inferior products, since they could not be stacked at all. Thinking of this, Zhou stored them into his spatial ring. He could take them out and reward them to his subordinates in the future, if they made any great contributions, and he did not know what to reward them with. As for the last racial talent sphere, enhanceable, unique, Zhou opened it and realized that it was the Light Sacred Dragon's Holy Dragon Might talent. Zhou was naturally not interested, and put it into his spatial ring. A moment later, the loots were extracted from the corpses of the other 24 Light Spirit Dragons. That included the corpse of the Light Spirit Dragon he had extracted previously. Zhou obtained a total of 25 Light Spirit Dragon eggs and 25 Light Spirit Dragon bloodlines. There was naturally the same amount of skill books and the racial skill books. Zhou was not too interested in these skill books and racial skill books. However, he was quite interested in these 25 Light Spirit Dragon eggs and 25 Light Spirit Dragon bloodlines. If he used them all effectively, he would immediately have 25 more Light Spirit Dragon cubs and 25 subordinates, with boundless prospects with the bloodline of the Light Spirit Dragon. Zhou was filled with anticipation just thinking about it. With these pets and subordinates, the strength of his subordinates would clearly increase again. However, while hatching the Light Spirit Dragon was easy, he had to think carefully about who to give the Light Spirit Dragon bloodline to. This was clearly not a place to think quietly, so Zhou prepared to wait until he returned to the territory at night. After putting away all the loots, he went to the city lord's residence and took away a yellow gold tier territory token and other supplies. Zhou suddenly felt something just as he was about to leave. "Wait for me here. I'll be back in a while," Zhou said to Bai Yin behind him. Bai Yin hesitated for a moment before nodding. They had already cleared all the enemies and traps here. If the Lord wanted to walk around alone, there shouldn't be any danger, right? Bai Yin thought hesitantly. However, one can never be too careful. She prepared to follow not far behind the Lord. This way, if the Lord really encountered any danger that they did not notice, she could save him immediately. On the other side, not long after Zhou left, he felt Bai Yin protecting him not far behind him. He didn't mind. One of the reasons why he dared to leave the team and take a walk alone was because he had just obtained his personal talent, Danger Prediction. It was precisely because of Xiao Xian's talent that Zhou could feel that the danger here had been completely cleared by Bai Yin and the others. That was why he dared to come out alone, to experience the joy of exploring treasures alone. That's right. It is to search for treasures. Just now, one of his Lord talents that he had almost forgotten had been triggered. It was the green bronze tier Lord talent, Scavenger, that he had obtained previously. This Lord talent could allow Zhou to have an almost innate intuition towards the treasures within 1,000 square meters of him. He could acutely sense the location of the treasures. It could also extend the duration or endurance of treasures by 2 times. As for increasing the drop rate by 5%, it was useless. He suddenly felt that a treasure not far to the southeast of him seemed to be calling out to him. This feeling was very strange, making Zhou excited and expectant. Zhou had already seen many treasures. However, most of them were dropped by him with the help of the King of Loots. This was the first time Zhou had encountered a treasure that appeared around him in such a way. Therefore, he was looking forward to what this treasure was. A moment later, he walked out of the City Lord Manor and came to a corner of the city ruin. Then he saw the corpse of a monster. This monster had 3 heads, and each head belonged to a different race. Moreover, its body structure was also strange, as if it was a monster formed from the bodies of living beings of different races. However, this was not important. The important thing was, The call of the treasure that Zhou felt came from it. He frowned and used the object control technique to control the monster corpse to fly in the air. Then he began to check various parts of its body. Zhou saw a blood crystal covered in blood in its stomach in no time. It's indeed a treasure. Zhou was delighted. At the same time, he felt a little happy. This feeling of freeloading was really good. Then, he gave a drop of blood on the blood crystal of destiny. It slowly melted and finally turned into a blood-colored compass. Zhou looked over. Final items. Compass of the Soul of Vengeance. Effect. There is a great soul of vengeance residing in the compass. Tell him the true name or title of the person you want to take revenge on. Picture the other party's appearance in your heart. The great soul of vengeance will guide you to the location of your enemy. Current number of times guided by the soul of vengeance. 2/5 prompt. With the enhancement of your scavenger talent, the number of times the soul of vendetta has been guided has increased to 4/5. This final item. Zhou looked at the final items and thought about how to use them. Vengeance. He did not seem to have any enemies. Should he look for the Dragon Lady Lord and the Undead Lord? Even though the Dragon Lady Lord and the others were not directly involved in the attack by the other Cerulean Planet Lords in the early stages, many Cerulean Planet Lords were rumored to be secretly supporting them. But Zhou thought for a moment and quickly rejected this idea. The current him no longer treated people like the Dragon Lady Lord as his opponents. His true opponent was the true top lord of all races who stood at the peak of all races. Moreover, why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? Zhou had many ways to deal with the Dragon Lady Lord and the others. Zhou felt that it was a waste to use such a top-grade tool on them. Then, he looked at the final battlefield in front of him and suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up. I can use this tool on the top lords among the lords of all races. They are all worth billions, or even tens of billions of basic ranking points. As long as I kill one, my ranking can instantly increase. It's even possible for me to directly reach first place. Zhou felt that this application method was the most suitable for him at the moment. However, those top lords of all races were not easy to deal with. The virtual lord battlefield was completely different from the final battlefield after all. Zhou pondered deeply. He had to think carefully about which top-notch lord of all races he could look for using this tool. Only then could he be safe and reap high benefits. Chapter 432 Terrifying Suan. He did not think for long. Bai Yin had already cleaned up the battlefield and came in front of Zhou. My lord, should we continue on our way? She could tell that her lord seemed to be thinking about something, so she asked. Let's go. Continue to find the strongest lord faction in the surroundings to attack. Zhou came back to his senses and said. He had an idea now. The compass of the soul of vengeance had 3 conditions for use. They were the true name and title of the enemy, and the appearance of the enemy, which meant that he could find the location of any lord he had fought on the battlefield of the lords of all races through the compass of the soul of vengeance. However, he would likely not be able to find the location of the true lord of the original spirit race, or the great one lord of the chaos god race, since he had never come into contact with them. However, the other lords such as the heaven-chasing lord of the shepherd race, the Machina race's lord father, and the extreme venerable lord of the extreme dragon race. These top-notch lords could become his hunting target. Zhou set his goals thinking of this. He would first deal with the strongest group of lords among the 100,000 odd lord factions. Then he would test the effect of the compass of the soul of vengeance. After that he stopped thinking about it. After the light sacred dragon, Ingersoul, finished eating its eggshell, they returned to the starry night and advanced towards the next lord faction. Time passed quickly. Under Wen Ya's precise positioning, the lord forces were found by Zhou and the others. Then, they were easily defeated and conquered. Of course, they also missed them numerous times. It was impossible for those lords of all races to stay in one place forever. But even so, with a huge base of more than 100,000, and the astonishing speed of the Starry Night, Zhou and the others' efficiency in killing the lord factions of all races was still very shocking. As it turned out, Zhou was right. It was very difficult for a lord like Zhou, who could fight for the position of the strongest lord of all races, to encounter a lord faction that was evenly matched with him because of the sheer size of the final battlefield. In most cases, the lord factions he had encountered were all below the extraordinary tier. They were all lord factions that could be easily crushed by his two armies. At first, Zhou was still interested in going out with the soldiers and watching them fight. Later on, he gradually lost interest and hid in the starry night to watch the live broadcast. In the end, he did not even want to watch the live broadcast anymore, and asked Wuxia to show him the situation on Su An's side. A virtual screen appeared in front of Zhou. It showed a thin figure holding a blood sword and walking towards a temporary stronghold of the lords of all races not far away. It was Suan. At this moment, he suddenly felt something and turned to look behind him. He saw a virtual screen aimed at him, showing Su An's figure. "Greetings, my lord." Suan bowed respectfully and asked curiously, "Can my lord meet me in such a way even though I'm not in the spaceship?" "Even though you're not in the spaceship, you're within the range of the Starry Night's signal. That's why I can communicate with you in this way," Zhou said with a smile on the virtual screen. There was a small satellite stored in each of the dozen-odd Starry Nights. This small satellite contained extremely advanced mixed reality virtual imaging technology and could control the energy in the air to form such a virtual scene. It was said that their mixed reality virtual imaging technology had already been applied to an extremely common level among the highly developed mechanical race of technological civilization. He could even achieve all kinds of mixed reality virtual imaging without energy, and only needed to control the signal. Their racial territory could even turn into all kinds of virtual worlds with a thought through such technology. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could change the world at will. The virtual video screen in front of Su and was just the most basic technology application. Suan nodded blankly. The Night Empire he had lived in previously was an extremely pure martial artist country. Technology of this level was almost non-existent in his life, so he did not understand what Zhou was saying at all. However, Suan did not have the mood to ask further. He was an assassin. He just had to do what he had to do. "Are you going to assassinate the other party's lord?" "Yes, my lord." "Don't you need other soldiers?" "I've already asked the soldiers to pick me up when I return. I myself am enough for the assassination attempt," Suan said calmly. "Then be busy. I won't disturb you. I just want to see how you assassinate." Zhou was also quite curious about the methods of assassins like them. "Sure." Suan naturally did not object. In the past, when he was carrying out assassin quests in the Night Empire, there would occasionally be nobles or high-level bosses of organizations from the Night Empire who wanted to see his performance. He was not used to it at first, but he got used to it over time. These assassin skills were also one of the few retained memories in his mind. For the rest of the journey, Zhou did as he said. He did not disturb Suan at all, and quietly followed not far behind him. On the one hand, he watched him carry out the assassination, and on the other hand he did not want him to be exposed because of him. Just as Suan was about to reach the sentry post arranged by the other party, Su An's walking body suddenly began to rapidly become shallow and become silent until it completely disappeared. Talent, strong concealment. Talent, breathless walking. Zhou's eyes widened. Even if his perception was extremely strong, it was useless at this moment through this virtual video, so he could not see Su An's location. But soon, an illusory human frame appeared on the virtual screen. "How did you find out?" Zhou was stunned and asked. "I placed a signal source on Suan with his agreement. This way, I can know Su An's location at all times, so that it's easier to receive him. On the other hand, it's for this moment." Wuxia's voice sounded. Zhou acknowledged. Wuxia had thought it through. With Wuxia's methods, Zhou watched as Suan walked into the faction's stronghold step by step. The strength of this lord of all races was a lord of the abyss race called the one-eyed demon race. According to the index of all races, not only was this one-eyed demon extremely good at spirit spells and enslavement spells, its single eye was also extremely good at breaking illusions, seeing through invisibility, and so on. However, when facing a top-notch assassin, Suan, even an abyss lord who was good at seeing through invisibility, seemed to be blind. They did not realize that a peerless assassin with a sharp blade had already walked into their territory step by step and began to search for their lord. Chapter 433, Using the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance. They were busy with their own matters as if no one was around. Suan also looked for their lord calmly, as if no one was around. It was like choosing the goods he wanted. Zhou could not help but feel excited when he saw this contrasting scene. Was this the charm of a top-notch assassin? Suan found the one-eyed demon lord in no time. He followed behind the other party. After waiting for a long time, he finally found a chance for the other party to be alone. This one-eyed demon lord brought its spatial ring, as if it wanted to return to its temporary residence to check the loot it had just obtained. However, just as it walked into its room and closed the door with its mental strength, a faint blood light flashed. Then its huge eye was split into two from the middle and fell to the ground weakly. Its corpse disappeared into thin air before it landed on the ground. This one-eyed demon lord's eyes were still filled with excitement about the upcoming inspection of the loots, even until its death. As for Suan, who had killed the target, he was still invisible. He looked calmly at the corpse of the one-eyed demon lord in its spatial ring and walked out of the door, out of the temporary stronghold of the one-eyed demon race. Then, he removed his invisibility and returned to the Starry Night with the respectful support of the soldiers. Let's go to the next lord faction. Find the strongest one, Suan said calmly. Killing a white silver tier intermediate grade one-eyed demon lord was similar to blinking for him. Yes, Lord Suan. The intelligent life form of the Starry Night replied. Then, it quickly left and flew to the next stronghold of the Lord of all races. At this moment, a virtual screen appeared in front of Suan again. It was Zhou's video call. Simple and straightforward. As expected of a top-notch assassin, Zhou was not stingy with his praise. It's because the opponent is too weak. Suan shook his head. Zhou nodded. The difference between an epic tier elementary grade and a white silver tier intermediate grade lord was indeed a little huge. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. Originally, he wanted to see the powerful abilities in Suan's skill list. He did not expect the other party to be too weak, and could not force Suan to that extent. But he didn't care since there was still a long time in the future. He would be able to see them sooner or later. In the following period of time, Zhou watched Bai Yin Wuxia and the others conquer the lord factions of all races, while watching Suan's assassination. It was not boring. More than 7 hours passed. The members of the Star Alliance had yet to return. Zhou did not disturb their insight defection operation. He called Bai Yin Wuxia Suan and the others back to tally their results. In the end, he realized that in the past 7 hours, they had killed a total of 2,134 lords of all races. Among these lords, Suan alone had killed 1,056 lords. This result immediately conquered Bai Yin, Wuxia, Feng Luo, and the others. One had to know that even though they were leading the soldiers to conquer the entire lord faction of the myriad races, they were not like Suan, who only killed the lord's main body before leaving. Even so, Suan's efficiency was too terrifying. Was this a top-notch epic tier elementary grade assassin? Everyone exclaimed in their hearts. Zhou looked at Suan with satisfaction. He had personally seen Suan hunt down lords of all races like a ghost. Therefore, he knew best how terrifying Suan's killing efficiency was. Before the final battlefield began, the other Cerulean planet lords said that a profession similar to an assassin would shine on the final battlefield after knowing the rules here. From the looks of it, it's true. Zhou thought to himself. Suan alone was almost equivalent to the efficiency of their entire army. This was something he had never expected. However, reality was so ridiculous. If I had a few more top-notch assassins like Suan, wouldn't I be able to obtain Lord Talent crystal fragments easily? Zhou thought ruefully. Unfortunately, an expert like Suan could only be chanced upon by luck. Then, he stopped thinking about it, and told the soldiers that they would deal with the difficult opponent next. He asked everyone to leave the meeting room temporarily, and took out the compass of the soul of vengeance. He looked at the blood-colored compass with a solemn expression. There was the soul of vengeance, which was called a great existence by the item information. This was the first time Zhou had seen such a title. Therefore, even though he knew that the final items could be used safely, he was still a little cautious. After a long time, he took a deep breath and said slowly, "The great soul of vengeance. I want to take revenge on someone. Can you give me guidance so that I know its location?" The compass of the soul of vengeance lay quietly in Zhou's hand, as if it was just an ordinary old compass. Zhou did not relax at all, and looked at the compass carefully. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Whoosh! The compass moved slightly, and then a large amount of blood-colored fog dissipated from the compass. The entire conference room was enveloped by the blood-colored fog, making Zhou feel like he had arrived in a strange world. Honestly, he still felt a little cowardly when he saw the scene in front of him, even though he was mentally prepared. However, he did not reveal anything on the surface. At this moment, a pair of blood-colored eyes slowly appeared from the blood fog. These eyes looked at Zhou calmly. "Chaos human. Tell me, who is the enemy you want to take revenge on?" The soul of vengeance's voice rumbled. "The enemy I want to take revenge on is Extreme Dragon Race Lord. Extreme Venerable Lord," Zhou said in a low voice. This goal was the choice he made after thinking for a long time. The most important reasons for choosing were naturally the Light Sacred Dragon bloodline and Light Sacred Dragon Ingersoul that he had just obtained. As a legendary tier dragon, its bloodline and main body could definitely suppress the Extreme Venerable Lord. This alone was enough for Zhou to occupy a huge advantage in his battle with it. Not to mention that he was no longer the same person who first saw the Extreme Venerable Lord. The current him was very confident in defeating the other party, even if he did not use the Light Sacred Dragon. Now that he had the enhancement of the Light Sacred Dragon, Zhou would definitely not waste these two huge advantages. Actually, he was also considered Lord Father of the Machina race. However, after thinking about it, he gave up. Technology civilization had endless methods. Even though his strength was far stronger than before, he did not want to destroy Lord Father without knowing if he had unlocked higher tech products. After all, one can never be too careful. On the other hand, the dragon race's bloodline was revered. As long as their bloodline and strength crushed each other, they did not have to worry too much about accidents. At this moment, the soul of vengeance spoke. "I have given guidance. Go on." With that, the pair of blood-colored eyes slowly disappeared into the blood fog. Then the blood fog quickly retracted into the compass. The entire conference room returned to its previous appearance, as if nothing had happened. Zhou's gaze landed on the compass in his hand. The blood-colored needle on the compass suddenly began to slowly spin, and finally pointed to the west. Chapter 434 The Big Battle Begins. Zhou looked in the direction pointed by the compass needle, and a message appeared in his mind. The Extreme Venerable Lord was 8,142 kilometers to the west. Zhou calculated in his heart. With the speed of the Starry Night, they could reach the location of the Extreme Venerable Lord in about an hour. The remaining time should be enough to deal with the Extreme Venerable Lord. Even if the Extreme Venerable Lord obtained any powerful trump cards during this period of time, he did not have to worry too much. He had obtained many final items in the past 2 days, including some that could allow him to escape safely. More than an hour later, Zhou and the others came to attack the temporary stronghold of the Extreme Venerable Lord. A silver-white dragon more than 2,000 meters tall was soaring in the sky. It was the Extreme Venerable Lord. 36 smaller Extreme Dragon race members, and nearly 400,000 living beings of various races, were moving things around the city ruins below. Among them, the Extreme Dragon race was in charge of supervising the work, and the 400,000 life forms of various races played the role of coolies. Zhou was not surprised to see this. He could use the Lord Talent Insight defection to make many people of foreign races, and even monster subordinates, become his subjects. As a pure-blooded dragon, the Extreme Dragon race's bloodline was much higher than the Lava Dragon and the Spectral Dragon. It could almost be said to be one of the top pure-blooded dragons below the legendary tier dragon race. With their reputation, they could subdue a large number of subordinates even with the simplest deterrence method. It was not a problem to find a large number of workers with a little effort. It was just that their loyalty might not be very high. However, Zhou's attention was not on the slaves of the people of foreign races, but on a tower. It was a towering tower that was more than 10,000 meters tall. This tower had a total of 10 floors and was simple. The surface of the tower was carved with all kinds of dragon murals. Elven dragon, bone dragon, lava dragon, jade dragon, spectral dragon, mountain dragon, blood dragon, three-headed demon dragon. All kinds of dragon carvings gathered on the surface of the towering and ancient tower. It emitted an extremely strong dragon might and dragon blood aura. Not only did the 400,000 slaves of the people of foreign races not dare to look at it directly, but even the 36 extreme dragons were afraid of this tower. Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. And it looks like the top-notch Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. I didn't expect the extreme venerable lord to get this thing out so quickly. Zhou had the inheritance of the legendary tiered dragon race in his mind, so he naturally could tell the origin of this towering tower at a glance. His gaze became serious. This Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower was one of the fruits of civilization developed by the dragon race over countless years. It was finally completed after 30,000 to 40,000 years and 14 generations of dragon gods. Its function was very simple, but it was also very practical. That was, when the younger generation of the dragon race was not strong enough and needed help, they could use their bloodline as a catalyst to offer sacrifice in the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. They could summon the projection of their bloodline ancestors to fight for the younger generation. The dragon race was filled with treasures, but the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower had contributed greatly to their survival until now. Zhou could not help but think of what the extreme venerable lord had said to him back then. The racial civilization foundation of the lords of the various top races has already begun to appear. This Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower is only the beginning, Zhou thought to himself. However, he was not afraid. Instead, he was a little eager to try. With his current strength, he could say that he was lonely facing 99% of the lords of all races. He was excited to see the power of this Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. If he could not defeat him, he would use the final items to escape. In any case, he would not lose out. He immediately ordered to begin attacking the temporary stronghold of the extreme venerable lord, thinking of that. At the same time, the extreme venerable lord, which was cultivating in the sky, slowly opened its dragon eyes, and his gaze landed on the starry night, which was continuously sending troops to the ground. A look of surprise flashed across its eyes. This was the first time it had seen a lord faction of all races that dared to attack them after coming to the final battlefield. Moreover, it looked like it had the strength of a weak human lord. It narrowed its eyes slightly and quickly sensed a familiar aura from these human soldiers. The Lord of the Blazing Sun. So it's him. The extreme venerable lord looked at the 7 starry nights with a pair of cold and deep silver-white dragon eyes. The last time, it took the initiative to admit defeat to the Lord of the Blazing Sun, because it knew that its strength was inferior to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. It had always regarded that incident as its greatest humiliation. And now, this human lord actually dared to take the initiative to look for it again. Did he really think it was still the extreme venerable lord from back then? With the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower under it, it would even dare to take the initiative to attack, even if the true lord of the original spirit race appeared in front of it. This Lord of the Blazing Sun actually dared to appear in front of it again. He simply had a death wish. Then, it thought of something, and its silver-white dragon eyes suddenly lit up. This Lord of the Blazing Sun had more than 10 billion ranking points. If it killed the other party and took away the ranking points on him, wouldn't it immediately be ranked first among the lords of all races? Its heart suddenly burned. Good timing. Ha ha ha. All extreme dragon race and slaves, listen up. Destroy all these humans who dare to invade our territory. The extreme venerable lord's voice was cold and ferocious, shaking the world. Roar! Roar! Cuckoo! Howl! Language from the extreme dragon and various races sounded one after another. Then, they rushed towards Zhou's army. Howl! X2 seeing this scene, in the blink of an eye, Bai Yin and Wuxia also gathered an army of 200,000. They immediately summoned the greedy wolf avatar, that was nearly 3,000 meters tall, and charged at the enemies of the extreme dragon race, and the people of foreign races. Nazario, Auguste, Feng Luo, Suan Soul Reaper Maris, and other experts followed closely behind. The remaining 300,000 troops were all long-range archers and mages. They did not need to join the greedy wolf avatar, and could attack these enemies from afar. Roar! Extreme dragon race descended from the sky one after another and pounced on the two greedy wolf avatars. Nazario, Auguste, Feng Luo, Suan, and the others with ferocious expressions. However, they were not afraid at all. The strength of the two greedy wolf avatars was at the limit of the extraordinary tier. The strongest among these extreme dragon race, and people of foreign race life forms, was only at the yellow gold tier. Even if the extreme dragon race was a top-notch pure-blooded dragon, and the yellow gold tier extreme dragon race was enough to defeat a diamond tier expert, an army extermination light ball could send a yellow gold tier extreme dragon race flying thousands of meters away in front of the greedy wolf avatar. Nazario and Auguste were both white platinum tier pure-blooded dragons. They could naturally easily crush these extreme dragon race members, who were not even white platinum tier. Nazario was not at a disadvantage at all in a 1-on-5 battle. The diamond tier intermediate grade Feng Luo was a 10-directional martial emperor, and had even mastered the unparalleled Ghost God hero skill of the Ghost God General. He was best at fighting against many. Therefore, he did not choose to fight the extreme dragon race. Instead, he chose to charge into the 400,000 life forms of the people of foreign races, with Suan and Soul Reaper Maris. He transformed into a Ghost God martial emperor. As he waved his saber, countless emperor heavenly saber chi burst out wantonly. Every move could kill dozens, or hundreds of life forms of the people of foreign races. He was simply like a peerless fierce general playing a mowing game. Chapter 435 Extreme Venerable Lord's Foreign Aid. The appearance of the extreme world-honored dragon. On the other side, the 300,000-strong army at the back of the battlefield was unwilling to fall behind. Especially the army extermination knights, and the violent storm spirits. The former was an empire-level soldier type. After they entered the 400,000 people of foreign race soldiers, even though they could not look down on them like Feng Luo, they were still enough to kill everyone in the 400,000 people of foreign race soldiers. Among the 300,000 soldiers, there were more than 100,000 kingdom-level combat class violent storm spirits. They released a death violent storm together. A round of attacks was enough to kill more than 50,000 of the 400,000 people of foreign races. When the extreme dragon saw this scene, it immediately pounced on these weak violent storm mages, wanting to deal with them. However, facing these yellow gold tier, and the extreme dragon race that was not even yellow gold tier, these violent storm spirits that had already given birth to white platinum tier, and even diamond tier violent storm spirits repelled the dozen or so extreme dragon race that dared to approach with tens of thousands of storm spells. Even though Zhou's firepower was very strong, however, as a top pure-blooded dragon race that was relatively close to the legendary tier dragon bloodline, the extreme dragon race did not perform very badly. As top-notch pure-blooded dragons, the extreme dragon race's strength, compared to other pure-blooded dragons, was that they had two extreme stats. That was their dragon bodies and strength. The extreme dragon race had the strongest dragon body and dragon strength among the pure-blooded dragons. This was the source of the word extreme in the extreme dragon race. Of course, this was under the exclusion of the legendary tier dragons. But even so, the powerful dragon body and strength of the extreme dragon race was quite obvious in front of the other pure-blooded dragons, who were not legendary tier dragons. Facing the attacks of the greedy wolf avatar, Nazario, Auguste, Su and Feng Luo, the army extermination knight, the violent storm spirit, and other experts of the Blazing Sun territory, even though these 36 extreme dragon race were constantly injured, not a single one of them died. This surprised Zhou. As expected, lords of all races are not simple. Zhou sighed in his heart. Then, he looked at the handsome dragon, more than 20 meters tall behind him. It was the light sacred dragon Ingersoll. Come with me. Meet your kind. Zhou smiled at it. Ingersoll let out a howl. Its bright pale golden dragon eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. Then, the two of them did not say anything else. After flying out of starry night, they looked down at the battlefield below. The next second, a terrifying bloodline pressure suddenly erupted from the human and dragon. The might of the holy dragon. Under the care of Zhou and Ingersoll, the blazing sun territory naturally did not feel anything. However, the extreme dragon race, and the 400,000 life forms of the people of foreign races, suddenly felt the unfathomable heavenly might descend on them. They almost instantly lost their ability to fight, and all of them trembled as they landed on the ground or lay on the ground, as if they were waiting for judgment. Even the extreme venerable lord could not persist flying in the air. After Zhou and Ingersoll released the might of the holy dragon at the same time, and was forced to land on the ground. It looked at Zhou and Ingersoll in shock. Light sacred dragon crown. The extreme venerable lord cried out. The warning from the depths of its bloodline had already told it the origin of this bloodline pressure. Therefore its heart was filled with disbelief. The extreme venerable lord never expected that he, a newborn of the extreme dragon race, would actually encounter a legendary dragon that even the dragon god might not be able to see in its life. If the dragons had a lottery event, the extreme venerable lord would want to go draw the lottery now. Surrender, or die. Zhou used the oldest dragon language, and said to the 37 extreme dragon race members like the extreme venerable lord. His voice sounded in the ears of every extreme dragon. The extreme dragon race had noble bloodlines, and naturally could understand the ancient dragon language. Therefore they immediately hesitated. Once a bloodline and strength suppressed them, very few dragons dared to resist. However, the extreme venerable lord was an exception. It bit its silver dragon tooth, and looked at the lord of the blazing sun beside Ingersoll with hatred. Despicable chaos human. You actually dared to order the legendary dragon race of our dragon race around. Moreover, you've exposed the legendary dragon race of our dragon race to these life forms of the people of foreign races, when it is still so weak. Its eyes erupted with intense killing intent. This human lord and his subordinates had to die. Moreover, not a single one of the less than 400,000 people of foreign race life forms could survive. In fact, all living beings within a radius of 5,000 kilometers, who sensed the existence of the light sacred dragon, could not be left alive. Otherwise, once the news of the light sacred dragon's reality spread, the gods might personally descend to kill the legendary dragons of their dragon race. However, it had its own agenda too. If it could welcome this legendary dragon into its camp, its strength would definitely increase greatly. It might even be able to use it to obtain the support of the local dragons in the future. Perhaps it might even be able to obtain the position of the dragon god. If it could become the dragon god, its success rate in fighting for the lord of all races would increase by at least 20%. Its gaze landed on the dragon sacrifice holy tower not far away. A look of determination flashed across the extreme venerable lord's eyes. Then, it forced its body to straighten and spat out a mouthful of silver-white blood at the dragon sacrifice holy tower. As soon as it spat out this mouthful of blood, the extreme venerable lord, which was originally a yellow gold tier advanced grade, fell to the yellow gold tier elementary grade. Moreover, its aura had also decreased greatly, and it fell into an enfeebled state. Extreme dragon race extreme venerable, please protect me. Its voice was hoarse as it roared. Then, more blood flowed out of the corner of its mouth. However, it did not care about this at all. Its gaze landed on the distant dragon sacrifice holy tower. Zhou and the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, also looked at the dragon sacrifice holy tower. The dragon sacrifice holy tower that was 10,000 meters tall suddenly shook faintly. At the same time, the dragon carvings on its surface also appeared one after another. An astonishing scene appeared, winding and circling, as if it was about to fly out of the murals. The next second, a terrifying polar dragon with a silver crown on its head and a dragon beard that snaked for 10,000 meters alone, as if it could lift the sky and step on the ground, jumped out of the dragon's sacrifice holy tower and looked down at all the living beings present. Even pure-blooded dragons like Nazario were no exception. Of all the life forms present, only the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, and Jojo dared to look at this huge creature directly. The two of them looked at this terrifying extreme dragon, as if they could see complete dragon-scale worlds reflecting trillions of life forms from the silver-white dragon scales on its body. This is like seeing thousands of worlds. A legendary dragon of the extreme dragon race. Extreme world-honored dragon, Jojo said softly. Then, he pretended to put his hand behind his back and rubbed a blood-colored token that appeared out of thin air in his palm. Final item, War Halt Token, Effect. A product of the will condensed by the endless undead on the battlefield of the final battlefield. It contains a large amount of sorrow. After using it, it can forcefully stop any level of battle or war currently underway and transfer the user and the person they want to protect to an absolutely safe location. Current usage time, 1 prompt. With the enhancement of your scavenger talent, the current number of uses has increased to 2. This item was one of the final items he had obtained on the final battlefield in the past 2 days. It was also Jojo's favorite final item. Should he use it now? Jojo narrowed his eyes. He really could not defeat this extreme world-honored dragon, after all, even if it was only a projection. Chapter 436, The Decision of the Extreme World-Honored Dragon. Zhou thought about the origins of this extreme world-honored dragon as he pondered. The extreme world-honored dragon was the oldest extreme dragon race in the extreme dragon race. There were even rumors that the extreme world-honored dragon was the first extreme dragon of the extreme dragon race. This was indeed the case in his legendary tier dragon race secret inheritance. Moreover, the most legendary thing about this first extreme dragon was that it was not born as a legendary dragon. In the beginning, it was only a pure-blooded extreme dragon. This number 1 extreme dragon had already reached the limit of the world a long time ago. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the strongest extreme dragon in the endless heavens. Later on, it was dissatisfied with this and wanted to break through the limit and become the pinnacle of the god tier, the supreme god realm. However, how difficult was it to become a supreme god realm? Even the number 1 extreme dragon had not reached this level after spending countless years. However, later on, it discussed the method to become stronger with a few legendary tier dragons. In the end, with the help of the 2 mysterious legendary tier dragons, it opened up a physical world with its powerful dragon body as the foundation to increase its strength level. Even though it had not broken through to the supreme god realm, it had jumped from a top pure-blooded dragon to a legendary tier dragon. His strength could also be considered a top expert among the Master God tier, second only to the 10 Master God tiers and the legendary Supreme God realm. Jojo regretted it secretly. He never expected that a junior of the extreme dragon race, who was not even at the white platinum tier, would actually summon this top big shot. Was this a big shot that low-level lords like them could see at this stage? This was cheating. On the other side, the extreme venerable lord was first stunned when it saw that it had actually summoned the ancestor of their extreme dragon race. Then it was pleasantly surprised. It never expected to summon this legendary ancestor. In his imagination, it would be good enough if he could summon an epic tier and legendary tier extreme dragon. He was really lucky to be able to summon this big shot through the dragon sacrifice holy tower. He was also a little puzzled. How did he summon this ancestor? Could it be that it was because he had admired this ancestor since he was young that he could not forget her? The extreme venerable lord guessed. It indeed admired this ancestor very much. Otherwise, it would not have given the title of extreme venerable lord when it gave it the title of lord. Greetings, ancestor. This junior Horus requests the ancestor to destroy that human lord and bring back the light sacred dragon crown of our race. The extreme venerable lord said excitedly. As for Horus, it was its real name. Unexpectedly, Its ancestor only glanced at him before its gaze landed on the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll and Zhou, the bloodline of the light sacred dragon and the light sacred dragon. The methods of the Lord Supreme will are indeed unbelievable. A quiet middle-aged dragon's voice sounded in Zhou and Ingersoll's minds. Greetings, extreme world-honored dragon. Zhou said politely. Hello. Ingersoll also knew that this was its senior and said obediently. The extreme world-honored dragon smiled. It looked at Ingersoll twice before its gaze landed on Zhou. Don't worry. I don't have any ill intentions. I'm just borrowing the dragon sacrifice holy tower of my race's junior to send this projection down to take a look at this new legendary dragon. The birth of the light sacred dragon is inseparable from you. I can't thank you enough. Why would I harm you? The extreme world-honored dragon was in an extremely good mood and specially explained to him. Zhou smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. I knew it. No matter how talented this extreme venerable lord was, it shouldn't be able to summon a big shot of this level. So it was here to see Ingersoll. His gaze landed on the extreme venerable lord, which was still extremely excited not far away, and he shook his head secretly. This fellow still thought that the ancestor in front of it was here to help it. He wondered how it would react when it found out the truth later. Are you taking Ingersoll away? Zhou's gaze landed on the legendary dragon again, and he could not help but ask. With the secret inheritance of the legendary dragon race, he naturally knew how much the dragon race valued the legendary dragon race, especially the young. He would not be surprised if the legendary dragon in front of him wanted to take the legendary dragon away. Moreover, with its identity and personality, it would probably give Ingersoll a lot of benefits, even if it took Ingersoll away. In addition, Ingersoll's identity was too sensitive and dangerous after all. Even though Zhou would be a little reluctant to give it away, this was actually beneficial to both sides. Zhou was safe. Ingersoll would also obtain a safer and more comfortable survival environment. However, the extreme world-honored dragon shook its head when it heard Zhou's words. It's your companion. I naturally want bring it back with me. And there's an agreement with the Supreme Will. It might be safer with you than with us. You're special too. Ingersoll might grow faster by your side. The extreme world-honored dragon looked at Zhou with its silver-white dragon eyes, as if it could see through everything. Zhou was stunned. While he heaved a sigh of relief, he nodded on the surface. My projection incarnation can't stay in the high continent for long, so I won't say much. I hope you can treat it well in the future. The extreme world-honored dragon said. Of course. Zhou promised. The extreme world-honored dragon nodded. It had long seen Nazario and Auguste. After seeing the growth of these two dragon descendants, it was still willing to believe Zhou's promise. At the same time, the extreme venerable lord was also looking at its ancestor in a daze. It did not know why its ancestor did not reply to it. It was actually fine if it did not reply to him. It was its ancestor after all. But why did the old ancestor not make any move? At this moment, the voice of the extreme world-honored dragon sounded in his mind. I'll get him to give you a chance to fight this human lord fairly. During this period, that lord and the light sacred dragon won't attack. In this duel, if you lose, give up your status as a lord and be loyal to this human lord to protect that light sacred dragon. If you win, I can guarantee you even the position of the dragon god. I won't help you in the process. Are you willing? The extreme venerable lord was stunned. Why did the old ancestor not help it, but let it fight the enemy fairly? Its mind raced. It could not think of a reason. In the end, it could only start to think of its ancestor's suggestion. If not for the pressure of the light sacred dragon bloodline in that lord's body, and the joint suppression of the light sacred dragon beside him, would it have a chance of winning? It looked at the other party's strong soldiers and generals, its heart beating like a drum. However, in the end, it still gritted its teeth and nodded vigorously. There was no possibility of refusing, now no matter if it had a chance of winning or not after all. It might as well give it a try. When the extreme world-honored dragon saw this, it finally felt some admiration for its descendant. At the very least, it did not retreat just because it was weaker than the other party. Chapter 437. What level are you to be using a similar title to me? Then it told Jojo about this. Actually, I can make it submit to you directly. However, this junior of mine is arrogant. If you don't subdue it, I'm afraid it won't sincerely submit to you. The extreme world-honored dragon said. Jojo thought for a moment, and did not say anything about an abnormal Lord Talent like peace and prosperity. After all, this Lord Talent that could silently change people's hearts was too easy to fear. Therefore he agreed immediately. With his current strength, he could steadily defeat this extreme world-honored dragon, even without the suppression of the light sacred dragon's bloodline. It was just that there might be some casualties. However, with Carol Moeli and the clergyman who had mastered the small resurrection spell, he could directly heal and revive them. Jojo naturally had no worries with such methods. Then, Jojo and the extreme venerable lord continued the previous battle under the gaze of the extreme world-honored dragon. Half an hour later, no matter how thick the skin and flesh of the extreme venerable lord and his extreme dragon race were, or how the extreme venerable lord used his hero skill, it was still severely injured by Jojo's side. As for the 400,000 life forms of the people of foreign races, they were all killed by Bai Yun, Wuxia, and the other experts. Jojo felt that it was a pity if he could directly recruit the other party. These 400,000 life forms of the people of foreign races could directly become his subordinates. However, he was already very satisfied to receive these 37 extreme dragon race subjects as his subjects. These were 37 pure-blooded dragons. Their potential was stronger than Spectral Dragon Auguste and Nazario before they became heroes. Coupled with the dragon egg of the light spirit dragon and the light sacred dragon Ingersoll beside him, Jojo felt that his gains today were off the charts. At this moment, the extreme world-honored dragon also moved. Silver light flashed in its eyes. The 36 heavily injured extreme dragon race and extreme venerable lords below recovered to their healthy state in the blink of an eye. Follow this lord well in the future and listen to his orders. Also protect this light sacred dragon. Also, change your lord title. What level are you at? How dare you use a title similar to my honorific title? After the extreme world-honored dragon finished its last sentence, its body gradually disappeared. The dragon sacrifice holy tower also calmed down again. This subordinate extreme, Horus, leads the extreme dragon race to greet my lord. The extreme venerable lord, no, it should be called Horus now, brought 36 extreme dragons to Jojo and said unwillingly. Jojo smiled. He looked at the other party's attribute information. Lord title, Extreme Dragon Lord, Territory, Extreme Dragon Territory, Hero title, Dragon King of War and Strength level, Yellow Gold Tier Elementary Grade, Ability Overview, a genius from the Extreme Dragon race. It awakened the Dragon God's blood of war, and the Black Flame Dragon God from a young age. Later, it was chosen by the Supreme Will, and came to the High Continent to become a Dragon Lord. Skills, Talent Descendant of the Dragon God, Hero Skill, War Trample, Hero Skill, Black Flame Dragon Breath, Yellow Gold Tier Elementary Grade Enhanceable Racial Skill, Extreme Dragon Body, Yellow Gold Tier Elementary Grade Enhanceable Racial Skill, Extreme Dragon Power, Mid-Level Deity Soul Immunity, Awakening Level 10%, Mid-Level Deity Physical Immunity, Awakening Level 10%, Mid-Level Deity Elemental Immunity, Awakening Level 10%. Loot's Drop Rate, 50 Yellow Gold Tier Miss Cores. Drop Rate, 100%. 1 Hero Skill, War Trample Drop Rate 0, 1%. 1 Hero Skill, Blackfire Dragon Breath Drop Rate, 0, 1%. 1 Yellow Gold Tier Elementary Grade Racial Skill, Extreme Dragon Body Drop Rate, 5%. 1 Yellow Gold Tier Elementary Grade Enhanceable Racial Skill, Extreme Dragon Power Drop Rate, 5%. 1 Low Tier Deity Liar Hero Inheritance Secret Manual, 6 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Rate, 0%. Jojo's eyes lit up. This guy had an Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent? Not bad, not bad. Give me your ranking points first, then give up your status as a lord, and become my subject. Jojo said. Yes, my lord. It agreed gloomily. After it became a lord, it originally wanted to do something ambitious. It did not expect it to end up like this. However, it had no choice but to listen to its ancestor. Therefore, it could only obediently admit defeat to Zhou and give its ranking points to him. At the same time, a notification of its surrender appeared in front of Zhou. The final battlefield hint. The Extreme Dragon Lord has surrendered to you. This lord's lord rank is Mythical Tier Advanced Grade, 112 points. It has obtained 1,856,407,500 basic ranking points on the final battlefield. You have obtained a total of 13,564,075,000 basic ranking points. I've become rich overnight. When Zhou saw this, a smile appeared on his face. This compass of the soul of vengeance was indeed useful. However, there was actually a certain amount of luck involved to be able to defeat the Extreme Dragon Race Lord this time and obtain its submission. If he had not obtained the Light Sacred Dragon and the Light Sacred Dragon bloodline, and the Extreme World Honored Dragon summoned by Lord Extreme Dragon had attacked him, then he would probably have to use the war token to escape from this place. This also gave Zhou a warning. The foundation of a top lord of all races could not be underestimated. In the face of the foundation of these top lords of all races, no matter how useful the compass of the soul of vengeance was, he could not use it recklessly. Then, he opened the rankings of the final battlefield. Cerulean Planet Human Race, Lord of the Blazing Sun rank, 24,761,251,200 points. The final battlefield ranking, first. Original Spirit Race, True Lord rank, 21,118,759,600 points. The final battlefield ranking, second. Chaos Gods Race, Great One Lord rank, 17,513,697,500 points. The final battlefield ranking, third. Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord rank, 11, 5 billion. The final battlefield ranking, fourth. Zhou smiled. As expected, after accepting Lord Extreme Dragon, one of the top 10 lords, his ranking had indeed jumped to first place in the final battlefield. He would be able to sit in the position of the strongest lord of all races, as long as he could preserve this status for one more day. Even though this was only the first event of an official lord, the title of the strongest lord of all races was nothing. After all, it was not the time to fight for the lord of all races. However, this was a good start. Zhou was excited for a while before gradually calming down. I'm afraid the true lord and the others will feel anxious if I come to this position now. Tomorrow is the last day of the final battlefield. I'm afraid it will be the most intense day of the war. My first place is only temporary. I can't relax, Zhou reminded himself. Then, he stopped thinking and looked at Lord Extreme Dragon in front of him. From today onwards, you are subjects of Blazing Sun City. Even though we were enemies, I won't treat you with prejudice as long as you work for me well in the future. Zhou said. Thank you, my lord. At this moment, the Extreme Dragon Lord was already a subject of the Blazing Sun territory. Under the silent influence of the Peace and Prosperity Lord talent, the original resistance in its heart quietly dissipated after hearing Zhou's words. Zhou nodded and brought the Master Thief's robbery gloves to the Extreme Dragon Lord. He placed his hand on its dragon head and took away its Lord Talent and the Lord Talent crystal fragments. Chapter 438 Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. Zhou looked at the extraordinary tier Lord Talent sphere in his spatial ring and could not help but smile. Even though he already had nearly 20 Lord Talents, there were still very few Lord Talents above the Diamond tier. Not to mention the extraordinary tier Lord Talent. Thinking of this, he looked at Horus, who looked normal, and even felt that its fierce face was much cuter. Then, his gaze landed on the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower not far away. Race Building Name: Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. Race Building Level: Special. Building Function 1, Holy Tower Protection. The cultivation efficiency of dragons cultivating near the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower has increased by 200%. Building Function 2. Dragon Blood Sacred Sacrifice. Use the dragon race's own bloodline as a sacrifice and summon the ancestor of your dragon race. The stronger the sacrificer is, the higher the potential, and the stronger the dragon ancestor summoned. Building Description. A building of the dragon race that plays an indelible role in the inheritance and continuation of the dragon race. Zhou raised his eyebrows. Actually, there was naturally no need to mention the construction function of the dragon sacrifice holy tower. They had already seen it just now. However, building function 1 had really surprised Zhou. Cultivation efficiency increased by 200%. This increase in cultivation efficiency was naturally ordinary to the human race. However, to a high-level race like the dragon race in their size, a 200% increase in cultivation efficiency was already quite an outstanding bonus. Just as I thought. The quality of this dragon sacrifice holy tower is very high. Zhou thought. Only the high-quality dragon sacrifice holy tower could provide such a high cultivation efficiency bonus. Horace, where did you get the building materials for the dragon sacrifice holy tower? He asked Horace. The construction method of the dragon sacrifice holy tower was not rare. Many pure-blooded dragons with higher bloodline levels would have it recorded in the dragon inheritance in their minds. The key was that its building materials were rare. This was because most of these building materials grew near the habitat of the dragon race. Therefore, even Zhou, who visited the marketplace of the Cerulean planet's human race world channel every day, rarely saw such rare materials. My lord, when the Supreme will distributes the initial territories of the lords of various races, it will arrange them according to the habitual living environment of the various races. Lords would be able to survive off it even if there are some deviations. The materials I used to build this dragon sacrifice holy tower were all bought from the dragon race's marketplace. As for these building materials, they mostly found them around the territories of the dragons which sold them. Horace understood what his lord was puzzled about, so he explained in detail. Zhou frowned. Can you return to your territory now? Zhou suddenly thought of this and asked. He suddenly regretted being so anxious to recruit the other party into his territory. There must be a large amount of wealth, and some dragons left in the other party's territory. If it kept the other party's status as a lord first, it could bring them all over. But fortunately, what Horace said next made Zhou heave a sigh of relief. I can sense the location of my territory, but it's probably quite far from the Blazing Sun territory. It's at least 3 billion kilometers away. Horace closed its eyes to feel for a while, then opened them and said. Zhou pondered. 3 billion kilometers? His starry night could fly about 100 million kilometers in an hour. This way, it would take about a day to go to Horace territory. It would be very simple to return here. He could just use his lord talent, return to the city. Zhou felt much more at ease knowing that. When we get back, I'll assign you a Machina race spaceship Starry Night. At that time, you can assign a subordinate to receive the clansmen and supplies in your original territory. If your territory is developing well, I can also give you a territory token of the corresponding level and let you activate the territory buildings again. Then, you can become the lord of the territory again. At that time, please set up another teleportation door. Then, you can guard there directly as long as you listen at any time. Zhou said. Forget it. After I came to the High Continent, I almost didn't build a territory. I've always been letting the clansmen I summon fight everywhere to increase my strength. The only outstanding building built is this dragon sacrifice holy tower. Horace smiled bitterly. Most dragons had reached the limit of the life forms of all races in terms of martial strength, but they were completely unable to develop in terms of farming. Other than a few dragons who were good at this, most of the dragons were either collecting treasures or increasing their strength. They rarely thought about anything else. The extreme dragon race was such a dragon race. Fine. Then hurry up and bring back the clansmen and resources in your territory. Put away this dragon sacrifice holy tower first, and place it in my territory later. In the future, you and your clansmen will live and cultivate in my territory. Zhou was not surprised. He knew that this situation was very normal, with the light sacred dragon's dragon inheritance in his mind. Yes, my lord. Horus nodded and flew in front of the dragon sacrifice holy tower. Right on the heels of that, it dripped a drop of dragon blood and began to cast draconic magic. The 10,000-meter-tall dragon sacrifice holy tower suddenly shook and emitted a 7-colored light with a low dragon roar. Then, it quickly shrunk and finally turned into a 10-meter-long dragon sacrifice holy tower that landed in Horus' hand. A moment later, just as the soldiers were still extracting the loots of the 400,000 people of foreign race life forms, Zhou suddenly seemed to have sensed something and turned to look into the distance. He narrowed his eyes slightly, then his expression changed. Let's go. Ignore the remaining loots. The terrifying violent storm is here. Zhou immediately sent a voice transmission to all his subordinates. When Bai Yin, Wuxia, and the others heard this, they immediately asked the soldiers to put down the loot in their hands without hesitation. Then, they arranged an order and quickly entered the starry night. The expressions of Horus and the other members of the extreme dragon race suddenly changed. As a former top lord faction, they naturally knew of the existence of this terrifying violent storm. Even dragons like them, who focused on improving their dragon bodies, would probably not be able to last more than a second in the face of the terrifying violent storm before they shattered into pieces and dissipated. Zhou did not say anything else. He directly arranged another starry night for the 37 extreme dragon race and asked them to immediately take refuge. Then he did not get on the spaceship immediately. Instead, he looked into the distance. This series of actions only took 4 to 5 minutes. However, in his vision, the terrifying violent storm, that was originally more than 1,000 kilometers away, had actually arrived more than 500 kilometers away. This time, not only Zhou saw it. Even Bai Yin, Wuxia, and even the normal soldiers saw the terrifying violent storm from afar. They felt at ease and revered their lord, even more thinking of their lord's warning just now. Zhou was not in a good mood. He frowned as he looked at the approaching terrifying violent storm and muttered, "The movement speed of this terrifying violent storm is at least twice as fast as yesterday. At this rate, the lords of all races will have less and less activity area. All the lords will also be closer and closer to each other, and the probability of a lord war breaking out will also increase. This final battlefield is really getting more and more dangerous," he thought. It seemed that the final battlefield tomorrow would be the most dangerous so far. Chapter 439, The Huge Advantage of the Machina Race. It seemed that the final battlefield tomorrow would be the most dangerous so far. At the same time, it would also be the time when the lords of all races increased their ranking points the fastest. The true lord, the Great One Lord, and the heaven-chasing lord will definitely make good use of tomorrow to increase their ranking. Even though I'm already a distance away from the second-ranked true lord, if I don't make good use of tomorrow's time, I'm afraid I'll have a certain chance of being chased back by the other party. I can't relax. Zhou thought urgently. My lord, everyone has already boarded the spaceship. Come on. At this moment, Bai Yin flew to Zhou's side and said. Zhou came back to his senses and nodded. Then he returned to the starry night with Bai Yi and flew away from the violent storm at full speed. In the starry night, in the conference room, Zhou, Bai Yin, Wuxia, Feng Luo Suan, the other Blazing Sun City generals, and the members of the Star Alliance were in a meeting. Zhou and his generals were naturally present. On the other hand, huge subordinates like Nazario, Auguste, and Horus held a meeting with Zhou, and the others through a video call with the lords of the Star Alliance. In the huge conference room, more than 300 video screens, and more than 20 subordinates of the Blazing Sun territory sat together in an orderly manner, looking rather solemn. However, the topic of conversation was very relaxing. Everyone, is the Insight defection over? Zhou looked at the more than 300 Alliance masters in the video. The Insight defection is over, President. Me too. This Insight defection was really awesome. I used it and obtained more than 2,000 subordinates of the people of foreign race lord. My Insight defection has incited more than 3,000 undead subordinates. Same here. The final battlefield is really a good place. The feeling of running away after insight defection is so exciting. Ha ha ha. The lords in the video almost had smiles on their faces. They looked like they had gained quite a lot. When Zhou heard the discussion of the lord members, he smiled and nodded. You can return to your respective territories to organize your gains now. Our Starry Night will automatically meet up and advance away from the violent storm. Zhou waited for everyone to talk for a while before saying. The lords agreed one after another. President, when will we hand over the fog monsters we captured to you? At this moment, the Paper Immortal Lord suddenly raised this question. Previously, Zhou had told them that they could capture some special fog monsters around their territories and send them to him in their free time. There was no need for much. 1 or 2 would do. They had always remembered, so they only wanted to ask now. Anytime. If you have time later, you can also send it directly to the Blazing Sun territory. Then just go straight to the military officer to collect your military merits. Zhou immediately said. He had mentioned this before. It was to add some new ranch monsters to his monster ranches. He had seen all the monsters around his territory after all. Other than the fog monsters that had already been put into the monster ranch, most of them were not valuable. Therefore, Zhou thought of these lord members. The territories of these lord members came from all over the high continent. There must be many special fog monsters and special loot production places around their territory. Perhaps there would be loots that could make Zhou's eyes light up? Zhou had also thought of using the marketplace to buy some fog monsters to see what loots they could drop. Unfortunately, the marketplace could not trade living creatures unless it was products like pet eggs. Zhou dismissed this idea. After that, everyone chatted about other matters for a while before dispersing. The lords returned to their respective territories. Zhou asked Bai Yin and Wuxia to bring their troops back to the Blazing Sun territory, while he stayed in the Starry Night alone. My lord, aren't you returning to the Blazing Sun territory? When Ya's voice sounded in the conference room. I want to see what the final battlefield looks like at night. Zhou shook his head. My lord, as an intelligent life form, I can't stay here with you physically. But I can create an intelligent program that links to my consciousness to stay here with you. When you did not ask further, and only said gently, sure. Zhou acknowledged. He opened a virtual screen and looked at the scene outside the spaceship. Scarlet fog gradually appeared in the air and began to quickly spread around the blood-colored battlefield as night fell. More and more scarlet fog spread throughout the final battlefield and quickly spread to the Starry Night where Zhou was. The Starry Night could not stop the invasion of the scarlet fog at all. The scarlet fog barged into the spaceship's cabin and approached Zhou in no time. Nomological skill. Absolute light. At this moment, a faint voice sounded. Then Zhou, who was sitting in the main seat of the conference room, suddenly emitted a bright and gentle holy white light. The holy white light quickly spread and enveloped the conference room, where Zhou was in the blink of an eye. Wherever the holy white light passed, the scarlet fog evaporated into blood-colored airflow and dissipated in the air. Zhou watched this scene. This was the first time he was in the scarlet fog like this. This was also the first time he had seen the scarlet fog disappear in such a way. Zhou thought. The holy white light quickly expanded and enveloped the entire Starry Night in the blink of an eye, including the other 8 Starry Nights around it. Night had already fallen on the final battlefield. Zhou's location seemed to have become the only light. It looked a little incompatible, because it was very different from its surroundings. In the conference room, Zhou sat on the main seat and felt the consumption of energy in his body. He was surprised to discover that he had only consumed about 5% of the energy in his body after using the light of absolute light to protect such a large area. This absolute light actually consumes so little energy as a law skill, and it feels like it can last for 2 hours. Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. He thought that the consumption of law skills would be pretty extensive. He did not expect it to be like this. Of course, perhaps it was because this absolute light law skill was only an auxiliary law skill, and the grade of the chaotic origin energy in his body was too high. so he felt that the consumption was so low. Zhou only had this one law skill so far, so it was not easy to make a judgment. He looked at the surrounding spaceship environment and suddenly thought of a problem. If Wen Ya's mechanical spaceship body could not be affected by the scarlet fog, wouldn't the Machina race be able to take advantage of the final battlefield, or even the High Continent and the other lords? Zhou shook his head. If that was the case, the Supreme Will had really given the Machina race lord a huge development advantage by a freak combination of factors. But fortunately, he now had the means to ignore the scarlet fog. With a thought, he gathered the light of absolute light around his body to prevent the starry night from being too obvious. Then he looked at the rankings of the final battlefield. Lord Father of the Machina race was ranked 4th. Only below him, the True Lord, the Great One Lord, and the Heaven-Chasing Lord. Even though this Lord Father was defeated by me, but it's also an opponent to be underestimated. Zhou raised his eyebrows. Then he looked at the virtual screen in front of him. It still displayed the scene of the final battlefield. At this moment, the Lord factions of the myriad races had long disappeared from the blood-colored ground, causing the entire battlefield to fall silent. This violent storm is constantly accelerating and shrinking. Unless these people of foreign race lords can be like me and have tools to travel at night, they can only give up on entering the final battlefield if they don't want to appear on the battlefield the next day and be drowned by the violent storm. Under the influence of the terrifying violent storm these 2 days, there are probably not many lords left tomorrow. Zhou thought. Of course, there was also a lucky lord who was an exception. They might have just descended on the battlefield of the final battlefield and were in the final range of the violent storm. In other words, the final circle. If they could survive in the final circle, they might be able to pick up a good ranking. After that, Zhou stayed in the conference room for a long time before returning to the Blazing Sun territory. Chapter 440 Lutz and Luosheng. The Blazing Sun territory. Zhou directly returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise when he returned. Bai Yin came to him and handed him the list of today's spoils of war. Zhou looked at the list of loots. Today, they have eliminated a total of more than 25 million people of foreign races. With the enhancement of the King of Loots and the title of the strongest lord, there were a total 56 green bronze tier territory tokens, 21 white silver tier territory tokens, 5 yellow gold tier territory tokens, 1,207,530 white platinum tier mist cores, 6,547,950 yellow gold tier mist cores, 15,109,600 white silver tier mist cores, and 21,261,250 green bronze tier mist cores, 15,400,009,650 skill books, and 26,009,655 pieces of equipment. More than 15 billion units of basic materials, 4,160 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, 6 extraordinary tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, 1 extraordinary tier Lord Talent sphere, 1 green bronze tier Lord Talent sphere. Apart from the above loots, in this trip to the final battlefield, 611,280 people had broken through. After that, he went through the Triumphal Arch again, and the number of people who broke through directly reached 701,001. They were just short of more than 60,000 soldiers to reach the level of everyone's promotion. Of these 701,001 people, 51,255 people were promoted to Black Iron Tier Intermediate Grade and Black Iron Tier Advanced Grade. 96,435 people advanced from Black Iron Tier to Green Bronze Tier. 233,493 people advanced to the White Silver Tier. 161,024 people advanced to Yellow Gold Tier. 116,502 people broke through to the White Platinum Tier. 23,660 people had broken through to Diamond Tier. 1 person had broken through to the Extraordinary Tier level. Soul Reaper Maris had broken through to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Spectral Dragon Auguste had broken through to the White Platinum Tier Intermediate grade. Among the soldiers under his command, there were 51,255 Black Iron Tier soldiers. There were 158,904 Green Bronze Tier soldiers. There were 223,76 White Silver Tier soldiers. 183,943 of Yellow Gold Tier. 154,522 of White Platinum Tier. 24,549 Diamond Tier. And 16 Extraordinary Tier. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He had more than 24,000 Diamond Tier experts under his command now. That probably exceeded the number of Diamond Tier powerhouses in a veteran beginner kingdom. With this strength, the current Blazing Sun territory was enough to sweep through an ordinary beginner kingdom. What surprised Zhou was that among the human soldiers under him, there was finally a soldier who was not a hero or a talent with reputation rating, who had broken through to Extraordinary Tier Elementary grade. Zhou pulled up this person's personal information. He learned that this person's name was Luo Sheng, and he was a sword shield soldier. He came to the Blazing Sun territory and became a subject of the Blazing Sun territory before he became a military professional. Later on, he changed his profession and became a sword shield soldier with the help of the territory. Then, with his extremely high potential and the enhancement of the blessing of the war god, his strength advanced by leaps and bounds, from Black Iron Tier Elementary grade to Extraordinary Tier Elementary grade. He was one of their own, an expert nurtured under the Blazing Sun territory's military merit exchange system. Moreover, he was the sword shield soldier whose military merit was closest to 100,000 when Zhou was setting up the exchange requirement for the Ghost God General Hero Inheritance in the military merit system. At this thought, Zhou looked at his military merits. He discovered that his military merits had already exceeded 100,000 points, reaching 125,460 points. He then looked at the exchange records. He realized that he had indeed exchanged for the Ghost God General Hero Inheritance. This person is indeed a talent. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. When he set the exchange requirement for the Ghost God General back then, he felt that there was a high chance that this rising star would obtain the hero inheritance of the Ghost God General. His military merits were about to reach the standard after all, and there was a huge gap between him and the second place. Unless a miracle happened, the second place would definitely not be able to catch up to Luo Sheng in a short period of time. From the looks of it, that was indeed the case. Furthermore, with the other party's Extraordinary Tier Elementary grade strength and his astonishing potential, he should be able to unleash the potential of an epic tier hero. He thought for a moment and decided to meet this future general of his and give him the hero inheritance of the Ice Soul Sword Spirit that he had previously obtained. At the thought of this, he called the Aliyah sisters over. Aliyah, go to the Blazing Sun army and get a soldier called Luo Sheng over. Atli, go invite General Wu Tu over. Zhou said. Yes, my lord, the two women said respectfully, then turned around and left. A moment later, Wu Tu and Luo Sheng came to Zhou. Greetings, my lord. X2, the two of them said respectfully and led the way. Zhou nodded, and his gaze landed on the young man called Luo Sheng. He looked to be 17 or 18 years old. He was wearing an Extraordinary Tier Elementary grade sword shield soldier armor. He was slender, fair-skinned and handsome. He looked serious. Anyone who saw him would probably praise him for being a handsome young man. What surprised Zhou was that other than carrying a saber and shield on his back, he also carried a halberd. You're good at wielding halberds? Zhou asked. Reporting to my lord. My family has been in the army for generations. The weapon I'm best at is the halberd. My father also passed down a set of the evil suppression halberd technique. I've also cultivated with other weapons, but none are as strong as my family's halberd technique. Luo Sheng reported. Then you're quite compatible with this hero inheritance. Zhou smiled. The weapon used by the Ghost God General was a halberd. Yes, Luo Sheng said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. There was pride in his expression, but there was also love and yearning for the hero inheritance. He had been practicing martial arts and reading military books since he was young under the care of his elders. His talent in the battlefield had begun to show since he was young. Therefore, he knew from a young age that his talent on the battlefield far exceeded that of ordinary people. Later on, he gradually grew up and came into contact with more battlefield matters. He was very comfortable with it, as though he was a fish in water. His family elders were also very surprised by his child's talent, so they nurtured him with all their might. And he did not let down the hopes of his elders. When he was 14 years old, he bade farewell to his family and joined the army alone. Later on, he killed several green bronze tier soldiers on the battlefield as an ordinary person without a class. This made him even more arrogant. However, he was also very smart. He knew that arrogance would not go far in the army. Therefore, he hid his arrogance deeply and polished himself in the army. 4 years later, he suddenly realized that the lord he was loyal to had secretly sent a private army to snatch the women. Hence, he killed his lord and liberated the oppressed female subjects. Then he left this territory. Later on, he heard that there was a peaceful territory near the Aurora Kingdom, so he came here and became a subject here. Chapter 441 Soul Arrow Hero Inheritance. He started his pursuit of his path, after confirming that this was a place that was truly worth displaying his talent. However, even though he knew that he was very talented in the battlefield, and would definitely be placed in an important position by the Lord, he had never expected to obtain the opportunity to obtain the hero inheritance. Moreover, it was a hero inheritance that was quite compatible with him. Luo Sheng immediately decided to work hard to obtain this hero inheritance. Until today he finally obtained it. Zhou Zhou looked at the other party's slightly arrogant expression, and did not feel annoyed. Instead, he admired him even more. He liked this kind of arrogant person based on true ability. Then he looked at the other party's attribute panel. His skills were ordinary, other than the epic tier intermediate grade demon suppression halberd technique. The rest were very conventional combat skills. However, when he saw the other party's potential, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. Legendary tier elementary grade. It had to be known that Bai Yun, who had the legendary tier hero fate level, fake, only had legendary tier intermediate grade potential. Wu Xian only had the potential of an epic tier advanced grade. Comparing the three, it could be seen how high Luo Sheng's initial potential was as a human. If Wu Xian could be considered a once-in-century human genius, Luo Sheng was probably a once-in-thousand-years genius. He had really picked up a treasure. Zhou Zhou was pleasantly surprised. With this kind of initial potential, once he accepted the hero inheritance of the Ghost God General, how much would his potential increase? Go back and accept the hero inheritance. Zhou Zhou suppressed his excitement and said with a faint smile. Understood. Luo Sheng said respectfully. He could feel his lord's admiration for him from Zhou Zhou's words. However, his mentality was not arrogant because of this. This was because he had gotten to know many capable people after joining the Blazing Sun territory. There was naturally no need to mention Bai Yun, Wu Xian and Feng Luo, who were already heroes of the human race. He also saw many life profession masters, or combat professional experts who were once famous in the Aurora Kingdom in Blazing Sun City. And what about the dragons which looked down on all life forms? They were willing to be pets under their lord. Facing these existences, he naturally could not be too proud. The arrogance he displayed was only comparable to the soldiers who were competing with him for the Ghost God General Hero inheritance. On the other side, Wu Tu, who had been silent at the side, looked enviously at Luo Sheng's departing figure. The conversation between the other party and his lord surfaced in his mind. Hero inheritance. As an old man who had followed Zhou Zhou for a long time, Wu Tu naturally knew what the hero inheritance was. That was why he was even more envious. It's good to be a general of the Lord. I can have a chance to become a hero respected by the people. I'm just a cartographer. I'm afraid I have nothing to do with heroes in my life. Wu Tu thought in a daze. Wu Tuesday. At this moment, Zhou Zhou's voice sounded in his ear. My lord. Wu Tu came back to his senses and said respectfully. Why? Are you envious? Zhou Zhou asked with a smile. He had high-level telepathy. Even if he was not specially listening to his inner thoughts, he could sense what the other party was thinking. Wu Tu blushed when he heard this. Then, he hesitated for a moment and nodded in embarrassment. How about I give you a chance to be a hero? Zhou said with a smile. Then he flipped his right hand, and a copy of the Hero Inheritance Secret Manual appeared in his palm. This is a Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. As long as you use it, you can be a real hero. How is it? Are you willing? Zhou smiled at him. Wu Tu was stunned. A Hero Inheritance Secret Manual? My lord wants me to be a hero too. He was so excited that he did not know what to say. Then Wu Tu subconsciously glanced at the Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. A text notification appeared. Treasure name: Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Grade: Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. Treasure ability. After using it, you can obtain the Soul Arrow, Enda's Hero Inheritance. Introduction: My arrow is everywhere. Soul Arrow, Endu. When Wu Tu saw the detailed information of the Hero Inheritance Secret Manual, his heart immediately pounded. Was it really the Hero Inheritance? Zhou smiled when he saw the other party's reaction. The Hero Inheritance of the Soul Arrow was originally a +1 version of the Hero Inheritance, dropped by the Ice Soul Arrow Ghost, Heartless. After Zhou obtained it, he did not have the time to use it. Coincidentally, he wanted to see Luo Sheng today, so he wanted to pass the Hero Inheritance of the Soul Arrow to Wu Tu's day. Wu Tu was a veteran in his territory and had worked hard. In addition, he was now the commander of the Heavenly Army. It would not be good if he did not master some form of martial arts. Therefore, Zhou handed over the Hero Inheritance of the Soul Arrow to him. Wu Tu did not like close combat. This Soul Arrow Hero Inheritance that was good at archery should suit his wishes. Thank you, my lord. Wu Tu immediately knelt on the ground and said excitedly, seeing that his lord was not in the mood to joke. Get up. The Hero Inheritance is extremely precious. I gave it to you because you deserve it. However, don't let down my hopes and this Hero Inheritance. Zhou reminded. Yes, my lord. Wu Tu stood up and said with a serious expression. Zhou nodded and handed the Hero Inheritance Secret Manual to him before letting him leave. Wu Tu carefully took the Hero Inheritance and left. After he left, Zhou smiled. After Luo Sheng and Wu Tu accept the Hero Inheritance tomorrow, there would be a total of 6 heroes in my territory. His eyes lit up. This number of heroes was comparable to 2 newly established beginner kingdoms. Among the lords of the myriad races, they could definitely be said to be outstanding. Now, I only have 1 extraordinary tier Hero Inheritance left from the Night Temple. Zhou pondered. He did not know who to give this Hero Inheritance to in the beginning. Suan had come today. After witnessing Su An's amazing assassination technique, Zhou had originally wanted to give this Hero Inheritance to him. Later, he thought about it and rejected this idea. Su An's potential was the strongest human subject under him apart from Xiao Xian. Zhou felt that giving him an extraordinary tier Hero Inheritance would become a hindrance to him. Zhou felt that it had to be a low-tier deity-level Hero Inheritance to match Su An's potential, right? I'll go to the Night Temple tomorrow and ask the Temple Lord. Let's see if I can negotiate and find Suan a god-level hero's legacy. Zhou pondered. Then he took out 2 items from his spatial ring. It was the 2 Lord Talent Spheres he had obtained on the Lord Battlefield today. Chapter 442 2 Lord Talents. Zhou looked at the 2 Lord Talent Spheres in front of him. Then his gaze landed on the green bronze tier Lord Talent Sphere. A text notification appeared. Treasure name: Lord Talent Sphere, Sturdy Constitution. Treasure grade: Green bronze tier treasure effect. After absorbing it, the Lord will have the green bronze tier Lord Talent Sturdy Constitution. Treasure description: a Lord Talent Sphere purified by the Supreme Will. After absorbing it, you can obtain a green bronze tier Lord Talent. Do you want to absorb this Lord Talent Sphere? Sturdy Constitution? Zhou nodded and chose to absorb it without thinking too much. The next second, this green bronze tier Lord Talent Sphere immediately turned into countless bronze light spots and surged into his glabella. Zhou closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened his eyes and immediately opened the details of the talent. Lord Talent. Sturdy constitution. Sturdy constitution. Your subjects' physiques are better than ordinary people. When their bodies are injured, the rate of their recuperation can speed up. After Zhou absorbed this Lord Talent, he felt a gentle energy suddenly appear in his body. This gentle energy was in his body, using his heart as a transit station. It flowed through his blood and made him feel comfortable. This should be the effect of the sturdy constitution. There was a strange look in Zhou's eyes. He did not expect that a mere green bronze tier Lord Talent would actually give him and all his subjects a special physique. Even though this sturdy constitution was only a green bronze tier Lord Talent and looked ordinary. However, in a world where wars were frequent, this Lord Talent that could accelerate the recovery of injuries in the body could be said to be quite practical. Zhou was quite satisfied. Then he looked at the next Lord Talent. Treasure name: Lord Talent Sphere, Agricultural Kingdom. Treasure grade: Extraordinary tier treasure grade. Extraordinary tier treasure description: a Lord Talent Sphere purified by the Supreme Will. You can obtain a yellow gold tier Lord Talent after absorbing it. Do you want to absorb this Lord Talent Sphere, Extraordinary tier? Zhou raised his eyebrows. Agricultural Kingdom? Was it a Lord Talent related to agriculture? He immediately absorbed it and looked at the details of this Lord Talent. Lord Talent, Agricultural Kingdom, Extraordinary tier. Agricultural Kingdom. The soil in your territory is fertile and very suitable for agricultural development. It also has the following innate effects. Specific Talent Effect 1. Crop production increases by 1000%. Specific Talent Effect 2. Crop growth cycle decreased by 50%. Specific Talent Effect 3. When agricultural professionals carry out their professional activities, the promotion energy obtained will increase by 200%. Specific Talent Effect 4. Natural disasters will not affect the growth of crops. Specific Talent Effect 5. During the cultivation of crops, your subjects will be more likely to comprehend the corresponding life profession and embark on the path of extraordinary tier. After reading it, Zhou was amazed. Any one of the 5 effects of this extraordinary tier Lord Talent would be considered top grade. Moreover, he was quite satisfied with this Lord Talent. Now that the population of his territory was increasing, the amount of food, fruits, vegetables, and other crops he needed was also increasing. Not long ago, Zheng Yuanqi had looked for him privately and said that even though the Sand Gold City was developing very quickly, and Nong Qinglin had begun to provide food and other crop products to his territory, it was still gradually unable to keep up with the speed of the population growth in his territory. Originally, Zhou's idea was to discuss with Li Yuangan and import crops, products, and other supplies needed by the subjects in the territory of the Aurora Kingdom. Now that he had this Lord Talent, he was confident that he could support all the subjects in his territory without relying on any imports, no matter how fast the population in his territory increased in the future. However, he naturally would not really be self-sufficient. The lesson of a certain conceited dynasty on Cerulean planet that felt self-sufficient had long been engraved in the textbooks. He would naturally not make the same mistake. I have the incomplete sword of Xianyuan, which bestows additional benefits to agriculture, livestock, and breeding industries. Not to mention Nong Qinglin's agricultural expert Lord Talent. Now with the farming talent of the agricultural country, TSK. My ancestors' bloodline is guiding me. Zhou thought happily. Nong Qinglin is probably going to go crazy laughing. He thought to himself. Zhou was right. Nong Qinglin was indeed going crazy from laughing. As a green bronze tier Lord Talent, agricultural expert, he was naturally very sensitive to land. In addition, the agricultural expert's compatibility with the agricultural kingdom was too high. So when the crops he planted changed, he felt it almost immediately. Why did the growth of the jade sun fruit and the blazing sun rice suddenly increase so much? The promotion energy I obtained through planting crops suddenly increased a lot? Nong Qinglin was extremely shocked. He turned to look at another white silver tier farmer, who was sowing seeds not far away, and shouted, "Zhang Zhelin, do you feel that the crops we planted have changed?" Zhang Zhelin was a young man, but he also liked to work as an extraordinary tier class. "Sir, you feel it too?" Hearing this, Zhang Zhelin stood up in surprise and looked at Nong Qunglin. Nong Qunglin hurriedly asked the surrounding farmers. As expected, these farmers more or less sensed the changes in these crops and themselves. They looked both happy and worried. They were happy because this change was naturally extremely beneficial to them. What worried them was that they still did not know how this change had happened. But even so, their expressions were more happy than worried. "I'll ask the Lord." Nong Qunglin hesitated for a moment and thought to himself. He really wanted to know the answer to this matter that concerned his profession. His lordship was very resourceful, so he should know, right? "I know." At this moment, a familiar voice with a smile appeared beside his ear. Nong Qunglin and the others were shocked. When they turned around, they realized that their lord was standing not far behind them. He was wearing a green-white diamond tier elementary grade New Wind ceremony and carrying the sword of Xian Yuan, agriculture husbandry sword. He stood there casually. Coupled with his celestial appearance, he naturally had an unparalleled bearing. "Greetings, my lord." Everyone was stunned for a moment before they hurriedly said respectfully, "There's no need to be so polite. You guys can continue working. I'm the one who caused the changes in the crops. Don't think too much about it. Just focus on your own matters." Zhou said, "Yes, my lord." Nong Qunglin and the others were relieved. Their faces were filled with joy. Their future was simply limitless with the huge agricultural bonus brought by the Lord. After seeing them continue to work, Zhou carried the sword of Xian Yuan, the agriculture husbandry sword, on his back while feeling the field under his feet. Chapter 443 65 Dragons. With the help of the sword of Xian Yuan, the agriculture husbandry sword, he could clearly feel that the jade sun fruits, blazing sun rice, and other crops planted by Nong Qunglin and the others were absorbing the nutrients of the earth at an astonishing rate and growing rapidly. Moreover, even though these crops absorbed a large amount of nutrients from the soil, under the influence of some mysterious power, the soil still maintained an astonishing fertility. It was as if this land had endless nutrients. This should be the combined effect of the agriculture nation, the sword of Xian Yuan, the agriculture husbandry sword, and the jade sun fruit tree forest. Zhou came to a realization. Then he clicked his tongue in wonder. Unknowingly, his territory already had so many good conditions for agricultural development. After that, he chatted with Nong Qunglin and the others for a while before turning around and walking towards the Arc de Triomphe. In front of the Triumph Gate, after Zhou arrived, he walked to the Triumph Gate without hesitation. Then the triumphal arch suddenly lit up with golden light. A gentle energy surged into his body from all directions, strengthening his body and soul strength. A comfortable feeling surged into his heart. Zhou had broken through to Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Right on the heels of that, the Calamity Crossing Spirit Pill, Lord's only edition, hidden in his body pushed the promotion energy in his body to 90% again, making him only a step away from Diamond Tier Advanced Grade. If nothing goes wrong tomorrow, my strength will advance to Diamond Tier Advanced Grade. At that time, the medicinal power of the Calamity Crossing Spirit Pill should be completely exhausted. Zhou thought ruefully. After experiencing the pleasure of rapidly increasing his strength, Zhou felt a little uncomfortable just thinking about it. But there was nothing he could do. After all, a treasure like the Calamity Crossing Spirit Pill, Lord-only version, was something that could only be chanced upon by luck. Zhou quickly adjusted his mentality. He still had a chance to get the Supreme Treasure Chest in the future. As for the treasures in the Supreme Treasure Chest, there was a high chance that the items that the Lord wanted would appear. Therefore, he still had a high chance of obtaining good things like the Calamity Crossing Spirit Pill, Lord-only version, in the future. Moreover, in the future, he would continue to increase the Lord talent of the Blessing of the War God, the Blessing of the 10 Gods. Therefore, even if the speed at which he increased his strength in the future would slow down, It should not be much slower. Then he stopped thinking and returned to his beginner-grade Lord's paradise. He came to the cultivation room and took out a large pile of loots from his spatial ring. Among these items were spoils of war that looked like hearts, spoils of war that looked like mist core, and spoils of war that looked like crystal statues. There were more than 200 of them. Even though they looked different, they all had one thing in common. They were all bloodline treasures. For example, the Shadow Race bloodline, the Crystal Demon Spirit Race bloodline, the Elemental Heart, the Dark Spirit Tiger Race bloodline. They were all bloodline loots that Zhou had obtained from their clansmen after attacking the Lord of all races. Most of them were below Diamond tier. The ones with the highest bloodlines were only Extraordinary tier and Epic tier. There were only 6 bloodlines at these 2 levels. These bloodlines are far inferior to the Light Sacred Dragon bloodline, or even the Light Spirit Dragon's bloodline. I wonder how much I can improve my Chaos Human bloodline. Zhou muttered to himself. He did not have much hope. One had to know that even the unique level Light Sacred Dragon bloodline only raised his Chaos Human race bloodline from the Yellow Gold tier intermediate grade to the Diamond tier elementary grade. Even though there were many bloodlines in front of him now, the effects combined were probably not even comparable to the Light Sacred Dragon bloodline. Zhou shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He absorbed the bloodlines one by one. More than an hour later, Zhou was speechless when he saw that he had advanced to Diamond tier intermediate grade. Was it that difficult to raise the Chaos Human bloodline? More than 200 people of foreign race bloodlines added together could only raise the Chaos Human bloodline by a small level? Ridiculous. Zhou felt a little helpless. What level was this Chaos Human bloodline at? Why was it so difficult to improve? Zhou was depressed for a while before he calmed down. At this moment, boom, a loud sound rang out. Zhou was stunned as the ground shook. Then he flew out of the beginner-grade Lord's paradise and looked into the distance. A 10,000-meter-tall tower stood hundreds of kilometers away from Blazing Sun City. It was the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. A silver dragon, more than 2,000 meters tall, was entrenched on the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. Has the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower been settled? When Zhou saw this, he thought of the 25 Light Spirit Dragon eggs in his spatial ring. With a thought, he called back a starry night from the final battlefield. Then, he spread a layer of absolute light around his body and rode the starry night and rushed into the scarlet fog, flying in the direction of the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower. Greetings, my lord. Horus led the other 36 Extreme Dragon Race members, as well as Nazario, Auguste, and Light Sacred Dragon Ingersoll. When they saw their lord arrive, they immediately said respectfully, "Aren't you afraid of the scarlet fog?" Zhou was surprised to see that their bodies were exposed in the scarlet fog, but their expressions did not change at all. Our extreme dragon bodies can easily resist the corrosion of the scarlet fog. Moreover, around the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower, the ancestral bloodline power of the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower will also protect us from the scarlet fog. Horus said respectfully. Zhou nodded. Then he did not say anything else. He directly took out 25 Light Spirit Dragon eggs and began to bind them with his blood. Horus and the other members of the Extreme Dragon race looked at this scene in surprise, but they did not say anything. Even their ancestor had asked them to protect this lord and the Light Sacred Dragon. These Light Spirit Dragons were the Light Sacred Dragon's elementary grade dragons. It was their honor to be hatched by the Overlord with his blood and be loyal to the Overlord and the Light Sacred Dragon. A moment later, 25 Light Spirit Dragon cubs surrounded Zhou in a mess, making him look like the parent of a large family or a kindergarten teacher. When Nazario and the others saw this scene, they all looked like they wanted to laugh, but did not dare to. Zhou was also a little helpless. He had the Light Sacred Dragon bloodline in his body. These Light Spirit Dragons were closer to him than to his parents. In addition, he had dripped his blood on them to recognize them as his master. With the double bloodline connection, at this moment, he was even more loved and relied on by these little fellows than the Light Sacred Dragon Ingersoll. It was not easy to appease them. Zhou looked at Nazario and the others. From now on, you can stay here for the time being. This place will become your base for the time being. I'll get Zheng Yuanqi and the others to send the other corresponding buildings and resources over tomorrow. If you need anything, you can tell me. I'll definitely satisfy you if I can. As for these little fellows, I'll leave them in your care. Zhou said. Yes, my lord. The dragon said respectfully. Zhou nodded. He looked at these dragons and counted. He realized that there were already 65 dragons. Good God. Even that dragon god lord probably doesn't have as many dragons as I do here. Zhou thought to himself. Logo. Chapter 444 Upgrading the Territory. Zhou looked at the dragon sacrifice holy tower in front of him, and thought about Nazario and the others' future arrangements. Now, he had as many as 65 dragons under him. It was definitely not good for so many dragons to gather so close to Blazing Sun City. There were still a large number of human soldiers and subjects living in Blazing Sun territory after all. Even if the 65 dragons didn't do anything, the commotion they caused was enough to shake the heavens and earth, causing the residents of the Blazing Sun territory to be unable to live normally. Moreover, cohabitation between humans and dragons was ultimately a temporary measure in the past. In the past, Zhou did not have any good conditions, so he allowed the dragons and humans to live together. However, under such circumstances, be it humans or dragons, they were actually not living very comfortably. The humans loved to protect their dragons, but they also respected the innate terrifying bloodline power of the dragons. The dragons did not dare to play casually. They were even afraid that even a gust of wind created from a casual flapping of their dragon wings would blow the subjects of the territory to death. However, that was different now. Zhou had a large amount of territories and resources. It was enough to arrange a new and suitable place for the dragons to live. Moreover, he had an array master in his territory who could create spatial teleportation arrays. If he wanted the dragons to return, he could just teleport them over instantly. It would not delay anything. I'll talk to Uncle Zheng tomorrow. Let him choose a suitable place in the territory and build a dragon city for the dragons to live in. Also, the monster subjects of the monster army have different living habits from humans. In fact, they are not suitable to live with humans. We can also build a monster city and let them live together. Zhou thought. He had separated the dragons, monsters, and humans. Apart from their different living habits, he naturally did not do it to create a barrier between the three types of subjects. They were all subjects of Blazing Sun City, so Zhou would treat them equally. In the future, even if Dragon City and Monster City were established, Zhou would not stop them from meeting. Instead, he would encourage them to communicate with each other. Zhou believed that in the end, the benefits would outweigh the disadvantages. It would not be too late to adjust if an accident really happened in the future. He then continued thinking if there was still anything he had yet to do. Today's matter was over. Zhou did not want to leave the matter for tomorrow. Oh yes. Zhou suddenly thought of something. He opened the marketplace and took out 10 million skill books and 20 million pieces of equipment from the spoils of war he had obtained from the final battlefield. He sent them to the marketplace for trade. He still had more than 6 million skill books and more than 6 million pieces of equipment left. These skills and equipment were enough for his soldiers to consume. The rest were useless for the time being, so he might as well take them out to sell the mist core. The amount of Zhou's transaction could be said to be astonishing. Therefore, it didn't take long for him to reach the first position in the trading viewership. The lords of Cerulean Planet had originally thought that their ability to accept the Lord of the Blazing Sun's attack was already very high. However, when they saw this transaction, they were still shocked. Fuck. 30 million skill books and equipment? What is the Lord of the Blazing Sun doing? Is he participating in a world war? So many skill books and equipment? If they were to be directly airdropped over my territory, they would probably crush my territory. Once again, I seriously suspect that the Lord of the Blazing Sun has opened the control panel. Can you send me the code? Big Boss Blazing Sun. Are you reading this? Is the Star Alliance still recruiting people? The Lord members of the Star Alliance seem to be especially happy recently even though I'm not with them. Boo-hoo-hoo. They must be silently making a fortune. Seeing them make a fortune silently is even worse than my own territory leveling up. Zhou also saw these comments. He smiled and did not say anything. With the insight defection around, they were indeed silently making a fortune. However, he no longer had a low-level master-servant territory contracts in his hands to add new alliance members. The wishes of these lords to join the Star Alliance could not be fulfilled in a short period of time. Then he closed this transaction and looked at another one. It was his transaction to buy high-level elemental gems. Then, he discovered that after a day of acquisition, he had already bought another 210 life elemental gems and 168 death elemental gems. I can upgrade my territory now. Zhou perked up. Then, he took out all the gems and came to the door of the beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. Zhou looked at the building in front of him. A text notification appeared. Do you want to upgrade the beginner-grade Lord's Paradise? Yes, he said. The next second, 400 million units of basic materials, 100 white platinum tier mist cores, 1,000 origin crystals, 10,000 units of basic elemental gems, 3,000 units of high-level elemental gems, and 1 platinum-level territory token disappeared. Boom! A golden light immediately covered the entire Lord Manor. A moment later, the golden light dissipated. The obviously expanded Lord Manor appeared in front of Zhou. Congratulations! Your beginner-grade Lord's Paradise has successfully been upgraded to a white platinum tier intermediate grade building. Your white platinum tier elementary grade essence spirit array has been successfully upgraded to white platinum tier intermediate grade. Your territory has been successfully upgraded to the white platinum tier intermediate grade. Territory stones endurance increased to 20 million/20 million. Your territory has expanded to 2,000 km times 2,000 km times 20,000 m. All fog monsters within the territory of the new territory have been expelled. Scarlet fog will not appear in any of your territories. You have received an upgrade reward, basic construction blueprint treasure chest, white platinum tier intermediate grade. Lord talent notification. The upper limit of the enemy's Lord force that you can use insight defection on has been increased to legendary tier elementary grade. Lord talent hint. Your monster ranches can be upgraded. Lord talent hint. Your mysterious caravan faction has increased. Lord talent hint. The strength of the clergy in your Goddess of Lives shelter has increased. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He was one step closer to the next level of the glory of the pioneer. However, he realized that there was something different about the upgraded territory this time. After upgrading the territory, there were no new blessed land buildings. Don't tell me that new buildings won't be added to the upgraded territory after reaching the white platinum tier level? Zhou thought to himself. Then he did not pay much attention to it. Now that the construction facilities in his territory were quite complete, there was no lack of necessary buildings. It did not matter if it did not increase. Then, he looked at the requirements for the next level of territory upgrade. Construction upgrade. 200 million units of wood. 200 million units of fine sand, 200 million units of metal, 200 million units of stone, 500 white platinum tier mist core, 2,000 origin crystals, 30,000 units of basic elemental gems, 3,000 units of thunder elemental gems, 3,000 units of life elemental gems, 3,000 units of death elemental gems, 2 white platinum tier cities, 20 white platinum tier lifestyle professionals, 300 white platinum tier military professionals, 2 white platinum tier territory tokens. Zhou frowned after reading it. It's getting harder and harder to upgrade this territory. He muttered to himself. Among these upgrade conditions, basic resources, mist core, origin crystals, basic elemental gems, lifestyle professionals and combat professionals, as well as territory tokens, he could satisfy all of them. However, he was not able to do the same with the 9,000 high-level elemental gems and 2 white platinum tier cities. Needless to say, there were high-level elemental gems. He only had one kingdom beginning city, out of the 2 white platinum tier cities. After the Myriad Races Lord battlefield event ends, I have to take down the Taiyan kingdom as soon as possible. Zhou thought. The white platinum tier cities, and high-level elemental gems in the Taiyan kingdom, should be able to satisfy the next upgrade requirement. Then he stopped thinking about it. As he continued to collect high-level elemental gems on the marketplace, he came to the Gate of Summoning and upgraded it. Chapter 445 Upgrading the Summoning Gate. Mechanical Terror Falcon. Zhou first looked at the upgrade requirements for the Gate of Summoning. Construction upgrade. 2 million units of wood, 2 million units of fine sand, 2 million units of metal, 2 million units of stone, 100 white platinum tier mist core. Territory level upgraded to white platinum tier intermediate grade. Zhou nodded. The requirement to upgrade the Gate of Summoning was easy. After the territory leveled up, the Gate of Summoning could basically level up as well. Then, he spent these materials to upgrade the Gate of Summoning. Congratulations! Your Gate of Summoning has successfully been upgraded to a white platinum tier intermediate grade building. You can summon plus 50 subjects every day. You will summon 70 professionals from the subjects every day. Prompt. Under the influence of the unique title of the race, Glory of the Pioneer 4, you can summon 1,675 subjects every day. You will summon 75 professionals from the subjects every day. Moreover, 5 of the professionals will have the same level as your territory. This leveling up was not bad, Zhou thought. Then, he looked at the requirements for the next level of the Gate of Summoning. Construction upgrade. 5 million units of wood, 5 million units of fine sand, 5 million units of metal, 5 million units of stone, 500 white platinum tier mist core. Territory level upgraded to white platinum tier advanced grade. What a free upgrade request. Zhou sighed. At this moment, Bai Yin walked over from not far away. Greetings, my lord. She said respectfully. Yes, why? Zhou asked. Reporting to the Lord members of the Star Alliance have already brought 20% of their forces to Blazing Sun territory. In addition, they also brought a group of captured fog monsters, and said that they wanted to offer them to the Lord. Bai Yin said. Zhou's eyes lit up. Let's go and take a look. He immediately said. Bai Yin nodded and led the way for Zhou. The two of them arrived at an empty space. In this empty space, more than 400,000 monster soldiers had gathered here. There were also more than 100 mist monsters of various shapes and sizes, imprisoned in metal cages by these monster soldiers. At the front of these monster soldiers were naturally the 311 Lord members, who had grasped insight defection. At this moment they were in high spirits. Clearly they were in a good mood. My good lord. On the other side, Zhou looked at the 400,000 soldiers, and was a little stunned. Could this be the 20% of their forces that they had turned around today? 20% of the troops would be more than 400,000. Then wouldn't their combined forces of insight defection reach more than 2 million? Coupled with the more than 600,000 troops they already had, the Lord Alliance that he had just established for 2 days actually had a total of more than 6 million troops. When Zhou thought of this, he was both excited and a little complicated. He had worked hard until now, but he only had 700,000 soldiers. Then he smiled very happily. With the Star Alliance's troops and the 1 million soldiers he was about to have, in the future, even if he had to fight head-on against a Lord-level faction at the peak of the Taiyan Kingdom, he had a chance of winning. At this moment, Nong Qinglin walked over. Reporting to my lord. This is the list of 20% of the troops that our insight defection brought back. There were originally more than 417,000 people, but we made it up to a total of 420,000 people. He said respectfully. Zhou nodded and took it to take a look. Then, he knew that among the 420,000 people, there were 171,350 Black Iron Tier soldiers. There were 131,693 Green Bronze Tier soldiers, White Silver Tier 92,873. There were 24,084 Yellow Gold Tier players. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Among the 420,000 Insight Defection soldiers, the highest level was only at the Yellow Gold Tier. However, with the strength of the Lord members, it was normal for Insight Defection to instigate an enemy of this strength. After all, when he first used Insight Defection, he also started from weak enemies. With these 420,000 Insight Defection subordinates, the total number of troops under my command has reached 1,193,556. I've officially exceeded 1,000,000 troops. I have a standard force comparable to a beginner kingdom. Including the troops I can summon in the Star Alliance, I can actually control more than 3,000,000 troops. Zhou was excited. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face. He felt that creating the Lord Alliance and sharing the Insight Defection with the Lord members was the wisest decision he had made recently. And this was only the beginning. As the strength of the Lord members increased in the future, the level of enemies they could induce Insight Defection would also increase rapidly. At that time, with the help of Insight Defection, the growth of his and his Lord Alliance's power would increase to a very exaggerated level. Even if the Bug Tribe Lord was in front of him, Zhou was confident that he would not lose to the other party in terms of the increase in the number of subordinates. At that time, even if he were to face the lords of top races like the original Spirit race, the Chaos Gods race, and the Shepherd's God race, he was confident that he could fight them. Then, under Bai Yun's lead, he arrived in front of more than 100 different types of fog monsters. Zhou started from the beginning and looked at the first fog monster. It was a slender monster with a long black-red mouthpart. It looked like a mosquito or an ant. Monster name: Blood-Traced Fog Ant. Strength level: Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade. Monster description: the fog monster of the Black Rock Plains was born in the Scarlet Fog and likes to suck the blood of life forms. Loot's drop rate: 2 Green Bronze Tier Mist Core. Drop rate: 100%. 1 Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade Blood Ant Spear. Drop rate: 3%. 1 Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade Skill Book Sound of Wings. Drop rate: 2%. After reading its detailed information, Zhou shook his head. This thing could only drop a pure attack type weapon, and a pure attack type skill other than the Mist Core. He could not get the soldier type recruitment books, nor could he get the soldier type class change book. He could not even get the functional equipment, skills, or special materials. Obviously, it did not meet the requirements of his monster ranch. He did not stop and looked at the monster behind him. Monster name: Black Tooth Boar. Strength level: Green Bronze Tier Intermediate Grade. Monster description: a fog monster from the Misty Mountains. It has an irritable temperament and is extremely aggressive. It can be said to be a tyrant in Misty Mountain. Loot's drop rate: 4 Green Bronze Tier Mist Core. Drop rate: 100%. 1 unit, 20 units of Green Bronze Tier Intermediate Grade Black Tooth Boar Flesh. Drop rate: 20%. 1%. 1 Green Bronze Tier Intermediate Grade Equipment Black Tooth Dagger. Drop rate: 3%. 1 Green Bronze Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book. Boar Charge. Drop rate: 3%. Zhou had seen one fog monster after another, but he had extremely high standards. Ordinary spoils of war were not worthy of his attention. However, when he saw the 45th fog monster, his eyes suddenly lit up. Monster name: Mechanical Terror Falcon. Strength level: Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade. Monster description: the fog monsters in the number 2 waste yard were produced by the Prophet Organization. It was one of the intelligence-type mechanical creatures produced by the Machina race. Later on, because the materials of its body were outdated, it was abandoned in the number 2 waste yard. After being invaded by the Scarlet Fog, it became a fog mechanical monster that hated the Machina race. Loot's drop rate: 8 Green Bronze Tier Mist Cores. Drop rate: 100%. 10 units of pure iron. Drop rate: 10%. 1 piece of Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade Equipment. Fear Falcon Wings. Drop rate: 3%. 1 piece of Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade Equipment. Fear Falcon Type 2 Radar. Drop rate: 3%. Chapter 446 Mechanical Fear Falcon's Equipment. Iron-eating bear and pet egg. These two pieces of equipment should be useful. Moreover, it can drop pure iron. Zhou felt that it should be stored in his monster ranches. However, before that, he had to see the specific effects of its two pieces of equipment. Zhou did not hesitate, and casually threw out a water spear technique to kill it. Then he placed his hand on its body. Lord Talent notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the title of Strongest Lord. The number of loots has increased by 20%. Lord Talent notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 10 Mist Cores, White Silver Tier Advanced Grade, 12 units of Forged Stainless Steel, 1 Fear Falcon Wing, White Silver Tier Advanced Grade, 1 Fear Falcon 3 Radar, White Silver Tier Advanced Grade. The mechanical Fear Falcon instantly exploded into a small pile of loots. Tisk Pure Iron has actually become Forged Stainless Steel. The Fear Falcon 2 Radar has also become the Fear Falcon 3 Radar? Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. Then, his gaze swept past the mist cores and forged stainless steel, and landed on the two pieces of equipment. Among them, the Fear Falcon's wings were a pair of combined silver mechanical wings that looked industrial. After unfolding it, Zhou realized that its wingspan was 10 meters long. Zhou looked at it. A text notification appeared. Equipment name, Fear Falcon Wings. Equipment grade, White Silver Tier Advanced Grade. Equipment effect. Use the energy in your body, or place the mist core in the energy slot of the Fear Falcon's wings, as the operating energy core of the Fear Falcon's wings. Carry it on your back. The user can fly freely in the sky, and adjust their speed freely by riding it. The maximum flying speed of the Fear Falcon's wings is 3,000 kilometers per hour, and the maximum endurance is about 1 hour. Zhou raised his eyebrows and nodded. Not bad. This maximum flying speed was comparable to the maximum flying speed of some fighter jets on the Cerulean planet. Even though it was far inferior to Starry Night, it could still be used as an outstanding solo combat equipment. However, Zhou also realized a problem. That was this Fear Falcon wing only had the ability to fly. It did not have any concerns at all on the safety problems it could encounter during high-speed flight. It did not even provide a pair of goggles. But it makes sense thinking about it. This was the equipment of the Machina race to begin with. The Machina race is not made of flesh and blood. Why would they need auxiliary equipment like goggles? However, even so, Zhou was still very excited. With the Monster Ranch, such flying equipment could be produced endlessly. Which meant he could use this equipment as a foundation to create his own aerial army. Zhou's heart burned with ambition. A long time ago, Zhou had the idea of forming his own aerial army when he first saw the fog monster flying in the air. In this world where there were endless means of war, it was definitely an incomparably fatal flaw, without any means to fight enemies in the air. However, he was limited by the conditions and did not have such flying equipment at that time. In addition, he had Nazario, the killing machine in the air, with him. So this idea was temporarily put aside. Now that he saw this equipment, Zhou immediately recalled his thoughts from a long time ago. Still, this thing's flying speed is still a little too fast, and it's just pure flying equipment. Ordinary people shouldn't be able to use this equipment. Even extraordinary tier professionals need a certain level of physical fitness to face flying equipment of this level. At this stage, I have to find powerful military professionals or combat professionals if I want to use it immediately. However, it's not impossible to use it on a large scale. Many thoughts appeared in Zhou's mind. I can get Wuxia to study it with the blacksmiths, alchemy technicians, and other lifestyle professionals in the territory. I should be able to study some supplementary equipment that can lower the threshold of usage, such as goggles, helmets, light flying armor, and so on, and pair them with the wings of the Fear Falcon. At that time, I can use it on a larger scale. Zhou thought. Then he looked at another piece of equipment. It was a square silver device that looked similar to the tablet on the cerulean planet. Equipment name: Fear Falcon 3 Radar. Equipment grade: White Silver Tier Advanced Grade. Equipment effect: the radar system on the mechanical Fear Falcon can scan and discover special signals within a radius of 10 kilometers, including the electromagnetic signals emitted by mechanical creatures and the biological energy signals emitted by flesh and blood creatures. Zhou nodded. This equipment was not bad either. It was equivalent to a small map in the game. However, this small map could only find flesh and mechanical creatures. The detection range was average. However, if its level was high, it should be able to scan flesh and mechanical creatures in a larger range. At this point, Zhou had already officially decided to put it in the monster ranch to nurture. He looked at Bai Yin beside him. Go find the lord who discovered this monster later, and ask him to send a few more over immediately. Then, send them to Mugu, and let him use an individual monster ranch to nurture this species of monster. Yes, my lord, Bai Yin said respectfully, and immediately called the soldiers over to make arrangements. Zhou did not care much, and continued to look at the next monster. In the time that followed, he looked at even more fog monsters. However, very few could catch Zhou's eye, until he saw the 106th monster. Zhou looked at the monster with a strange expression. The monster was more than 2 meters tall, and was completely black and white. 2 dark circles hung around its eyes. At this moment, it was sitting on the ground and looking at him in confusion. Monster name: Iron-Eating Bear. Strength level: Black Iron Tier Advanced Grade. Monster description: a mist monster in the Myriad Forest mountain range. It is good at digging minerals and feeds on them. It has thick skin, huge strength and extremely fast speed. It can climb all kinds of complicated terrain, and has extremely strong survivability. Loot's drop rate: 8 Black Iron Tier Mist Cores drop rate, 100%. 50 units of iron ore drop rate, 10%. 1 Black Iron Tier Advanced Grade Skill Book, Iron Claw Slam drop rate, 3%. 1 Black Iron-Eating Beast Pet Egg drop rate, 1%. Isn't this a giant panda? Zhou was a little stunned. This was the first time he had seen a fog monster that was almost identical to the creatures on the cerulean planet. Moreover, this was the first time he had seen a fog monster that could drop pet eggs. Zhou thought about it and decided to kill it. Even if it was a former national treasure, it was still a fog monster. They were products of 2 worlds. No matter how similar they looked on the surface, they were essentially different creatures. Zhou naturally did not have any pity for them. Then, he looked at the spoils of war of the Iron-Eating Bear. After the Iron-Eating Bear was dealt with, its spoils of war became 10 Green Bronze Tier Mist Cores, 60 units of pure iron, 1 Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade Skill Book, Metro Claw, and 1 Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade Pet Egg. Zhou ignored the Mist Core, Pure Iron and Skill Book. His gaze landed on the pet egg, and he dripped his blood on it to let it recognize him as its master. Chapter 447: The Greedy Wolf Totem. That was returned. An iron-eating bear, more than half a meter tall, crawled out of the egg cutely, and turned around to eat the eggshell. Zhou looked at the other party's attribute information while it ate the eggshell. Pet. Does not have a name yet. Race: Iron-Eating Bear. Growth stage: Infancy. Strength level: Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade. Skill: Strong Body, Thick Skin Constitution, Mineral Smell Detection, Iron Claw Slam. Potential: Green Bronze Tier Advanced Grade. Loyalty: 80. Character: Warlike, gluttonous, likes to sleep, likes to play, likes to mine. Pet description: the iron-eating bears feed on minerals. It looks honest on the surface, but it actually has quite shocking combat strength. From the description of this pet, this iron-eating bear seems to be very suitable to be used as a mount in the army. It's not bad for it to be a private pet. Or let it take charge of mining. Let's forget about mining. Isn't this equivalent to letting rats guard the rice jar? Zhou pondered. Then, he looked at the other party for a while, and discovered a shocking fact. The iron-eating bear, that was born from a pet egg, actually lost the power of the scarlet fog, and became a normal life form. That works. Zhou smiled. He naturally would not reject such a change. Then, he did not think for long, and decided to send the iron-eating bear, in the form of a fog monster, to the monster ranch. Be it its pet egg loots, or its pure iron mineral loots, they were all what Zhou wanted. Since that was the case, there was no reason to let it go. In the future, perhaps our Blazing Sun territory subjects can each have an iron-eating bear. This thought suddenly flashed across Zhou's mind. Then, he stopped thinking and asked Bai Yin to send the iron-eating bear in the form of a fog monster to Mugu. Then, he continued to look at the remaining fog monsters. With the mechanical fear falcon, and the iron-eating bear in front, Zhou was quite looking forward to the remaining 23 types of fog monsters. Unfortunately, the remaining 23 types of monsters' spoils of war were relatively normal, and were not worthy of Zhou's attention. Perhaps he had used up all his luck. Zhou was a little disappointed. He called the members of his Lord Alliance over, and asked if there were any more fog monsters. There were more than 300 lords, so there were definitely more than 100 monsters. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. Initially, they thought that this was a small matter. After all, when the Alliance Master said this, he did not even hold a meeting, and only casually told everyone. From the looks of it, the Lord seemed to take this matter very seriously. Yes. This is only the first batch. We will send another batch of fog monsters over every day. Lord Alliance Master, this batch of fog monsters are what we think to be stronger. We didn't bring back some weaker fog monsters, because we didn't think they were worth showing them to our Lord. If our Lord needs them, shall we capture a batch of weaker fog monsters tomorrow for you to take a look? The Lord spoke one after another. One of the Lord's words immediately made Zhou look over. Good God! No wonder there are only 100-odd fog monsters sent over. You're thinking too much. Why segregate the strong and weak ones? I want them all. Zhou immediately explained this misunderstanding. The Lords heaved a sigh of relief. That makes things easier. We can bring a lot more monsters to the Lord, if there are no specifications. Oh yes. Which Lord brought the mechanical fear falcon and the iron-eating bear over? Zhou nodded at everyone's reaction and asked curiously. I brought the mechanical fear falcon here. The gold merchant lord smiled. My territory is close to a Machina race kingdom, so there are such Machina race creatures near my territory. I brought the iron-eating bear here. A younger Chinese female lord raised her hand timidly and said with a red face, I think the iron-eating bear is very cute, and looks like our national treasure, so I brought it over. I like the fog monsters you two brought. In a while the two of you can collect 1,000 copies of the Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate. You can also collect 1,000 copies of the other Basic Military Profession Change Certificate. As for the other lords who brought fog monsters, everyone will be determined according to the number of fog monsters they brought. A new fog monster can receive 500 Basic Military Profession Change Certificates. No upper limit. The lords were excited when they heard that. They had already obtained a large number of subordinates through insight defection. What they lacked now were class change certificates that could allow their subordinates to embark on the path of professions. Therefore, when they heard Zhou's words, they immediately made up their minds to bring more new fog monsters over next time. However, in that case, they could not only care about the development of life professions. It was time to invade the territory of the non-kingdom level Scarlet Lords around their territory. Otherwise, with the limited area of his territory, they would definitely not be able to find too many new race fog monsters. On the other side, Zhou looked at the Lord's fighting spirit, and could not help but smile. He hoped that the fog monsters they would bring in the future would also surprise him. Then, he chatted with the lords for a while before letting them return to their respective homes. When they returned, Zhou was also thinking of returning to his beginner lord-blessed land. My lord. At this moment, Bai Yin suddenly stopped him. Why? Zhou was stunned. Bai Yin took out a totem statue from her spatial ring. It was the greedy wolf totem. My lord. I have already completely comprehended this greedy wolf totem. I can use the greedy wolf howling moon array, even if I do not rely on this greedy wolf totem. Therefore, I want to return it to the Lord, and let him find a general to teach it. Bai Yin said respectfully. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. Ever since he saw Bai Yin comprehend the hero skill, Greedy Wolf Killing Arrow, from the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array, Zhou Zhou had a premonition that this general of his would soon completely master the Greedy Wolf Moon Array like Wuxia, and get rid of his dependence on the Greedy Wolf Totem. However, he did not expect it to be so fast. It had only been less than a day or two, right? Zhou Zhou was surprised, but did not say anything on the surface. He took the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array over. He looked at the Greedy Wolf Totem in his hand, and was thinking about who to give it to when his heart suddenly moved. Why should he hand it over to others? He had previously obtained Wu Xin's talent, ability to grasp situation thoroughly, and hero skills from the Lord Shop. Who is the most suitable to learn the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array in this Greedy Wolf Totem in his territory? Definitely him, without a doubt. Chapter 448 The Improvement of the Lord Talent. One Ya's Spaceship Factory. As a lord, he did not need to go on stage to kill enemies, and use the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array to kill them. However, no need to and not knowing how to are two separate matters altogether. Zhou Zhou felt that as a lord, it was necessary for him to learn even if he did not have to go to the battlefield. I understand. Zhou Zhou nodded and did not say anything else. Bai Yin bowed respectfully, and was about to leave. Oh yes. Call Mugu, Carol Moeli, and Zheng Fuguei over. Zhou Zhou said. Yes, my lord. Bai Yin said respectfully, and turned to leave. After seeing her leave, Zhou Zhou shook the Greedy Wolf Totem in his hand, and decided to study it tonight. He would try to master it as quickly as possible, and hand it over to the other generals. This was a top-notch military formation that could reduce the casualties on the battlefield after all. He had nearly 2 million subordinates now. The Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array could accommodate at most 200,000 soldiers. Therefore, there had to be at least 6 generals who controlled it in his territory. Moreover, his military strength would increase exponentially every day as the days passed. Therefore, the more generals who controlled him in his territory, the better. Zhou Zhou did not think too much about it, and turned around to return to his beginner Lord Blessed Land. A moment later, in the conference room of the beginner grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou Zhou sat on the main seat, while Mugu, Carol Moeli, and Zheng Fuguei sat on both sides. Same old rules. Tell me about your enhanced abilities. Zhou Zhou said. The three of them looked at each other. Then Mugu, who was the first to follow Zhou Zhou, stood up. Reporting to my lord, my strength has also increased to the White Platinum Tier Intermediate grade, after the territory advanced to the White Platinum Tier Intermediate grade. My various skills have also increased to the White Platinum Tier Intermediate grade. Moreover, the number of monster ranches that I can manage has already reached 34. The maximum capacity of each monster ranch has also increased from 10,000 to 15,000. The upper limit of the monsters that can be nurtured has also increased to the White Platinum Tier Intermediate grade. Zhou Zhou nodded. He thought for a moment and said, You saw the new breed of fog monster I sent over just now, right? I just did. Mugu nodded. The 9 monsters nurtured by our monster ranch now are the Desert Fog Lizard, source of Sword Shield Soldiers, Tailed Fog Scorpion, source of Poison Crossbow Soldiers, Sandman, source of City Wall Materials, source of Light Drawing Crystals, Wild Sand Believers, source of Puteo Soldiers, Withered Tree, source of Tree Core Gems, Jade Sun Trees, Undead Knights, source of Aurora Knights, Violent Storm Demon Spirit, source of Violent Storm Spirit, Mechanical Fear Falcon, source of Fear, Falcon Wings, and the Iron-Eating Bear, source of Iron-Eating Bears. For now, including the new monster ranches that will be added in the future, we can prioritize nurturing the Violent Storm Spirit, Mechanical Fear Falcon, Iron-Eating Bear, Withered Tree, and Sandman. As for the other monsters, we can nurture less. 2 monster ranches will be enough for one kind of fog monster. Zhou Zhou said. With the Star Alliance around, he did not lack troops for the time being. Since that was the case, It was better to produce kingdom-level soldier types like the violent storm spirit with all his might. As for other materials, Air Force equipment and pets, he could produce more in a short period of time. As for normal soldier types like the sword shield soldiers and Pudeo soldiers, they only needed to leave 2 monster ranches for each. Yes, my lord, Mugu said respectfully. Zhou acknowledged. After Mugu finished his report, he automatically retreated. Then Zheng Fugui stood up. Reporting to my lord, the number of mysterious vendors in our mysterious caravan has increased from 500 to 1,000. All the mysterious merchants' abilities have also been upgraded to the white platinum tier intermediate grade. The number of our carriages has also increased to 1,000. In addition, the mysterious ring that each of us was given by the Supreme has also increased from 10,000 cubic meters to 30,000 cubic meters. We can transport more goods now. This is the improvement of our mysterious caravan. Zhou nodded. Seeing this, Zheng Fugui did not say anything else and sat back down. Carol Moeli also stood up elegantly. She was still wearing her cardinal uniform and looked beautiful, holy and dignified. Reporting to my lord, after our territory was upgraded to the white platinum tier intermediate grade, the shelter of the goddess of life also upgraded to the white platinum tier intermediate grade. Now there are already 2,000 clergymen, 2,000 priests, 2,000 nuns, and 5,000 life paladins in our shelter. In addition, the strength of all the clergy has also increased to the white platinum tier intermediate grade. My strength has also increased from extraordinary tier elementary grade to extraordinary tier intermediate grade. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Carol Moella's strength improved. It meant that the upper limit of the hero's strength that she could revive had also increased by a small level. He would have more confidence when he goes to the Night Temple tomorrow to ask for the hero inheritance for Suan. He did not have any extra Holy Spirit tier Faith Divine Crystal yet. After that, the 4 of them chatted for a while before ending the meeting. My lord, Wenya also has something to report. At this moment, Wenya's virtual image gradually appeared in front of Zhou. At this moment, she was wearing a Gothic-made outfit. Coupled with her innocent face, she looked very charming as a young girl. Where did you get that outfit? Zhou did not ask what the matter was immediately. Instead, he asked curiously. During this period of time, Wenya has been using Linger's marketplace to buy the materials for the construction of the Star Knight and Black Ghost spaceship factories. During this period, I also browsed through the products and comments of the other lords of the Cerulean planet. I chose this set of clothes. Does my lord like it? Wenya looked at Zhou with an innocent and expectant gaze. Zhou, who is able to withstand this? I like it. Zhou said what was on his mind. Wenya smiled when she heard this. Tell me what you want to say. Zhou became serious again. My lord, please follow Wenya to plane 7 first. Wenya trailed off. The white silver tier gift of the Machina brought Zhou a total of 10 Starry Knights. Zhou and Wenya decided to give the Starry Knights spaceships individual numbers to differentiate them. Zhou was curious. During this period of time, only 4 or 5 of the 10 Starry Knights were often used because one Starry Knight was very large. As for the remaining Starry Knights, they had never been used. According to Wenya, she was using these Starry Knights to prepare for the spaceship factory. Could it be? At this thought, Zhou's eyes lit up. He didn't ask further, and immediately followed Wenya to number 7. In number 7, when Zhou arrived at Starry Night, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. The huge Starry Night was actually filled with all kinds of automated industrial machinery. These industrial machines were full of futuristic technology and were always running. All kinds of colors filled the entire Starry Night, and mechanical parts that Zhou could not understand were constantly produced and transported to the center of the Starry Night. Seeing this, Zhou flew straight to the center, wanting to see what secrets there were. When he arrived at the center, he was immediately shocked again, because he saw half of a Starry Night. To be precise, it was a half-built Starry Night. Tens of thousands of mechanical industrial arms accurately placed all kinds of components on the incomplete Starry Night. allowing it to be perfected at an astonishing speed. At the same time, Wen Ya's voice also sounded in the entire number 7. The entire number 7 is operating for the construction of this starry night. It will take 19 hours, 16 minutes, and 25 seconds to build a new starry night. Wuxia is also building a Black Ghost spacecraft factory in the number 6 spacecraft beside it. Building a brand new Black Ghost will take 8 hours, 54 minutes, and 11 seconds. My lord, if we can obtain some advanced flying device technology knowledge from the Machina race lord tomorrow, when you can build more powerful starry nights and black ghosts in a shorter period of time. When you said. Chapter 449 Creating the Monster Army. Lu Kai's doubts. A lord of the Machina race. Alright, I understand. Zhou came back to his senses and thought for a few seconds. He still had 3 tries for the compass of the soul of vengeance in his hand. It was naturally not a problem to find a Machina race lord. Then he went to number 6 and looked at Black Ghost. The results were naturally quite satisfactory. However, he also had a problem. Why must we build the spaceship factory on Starry Night? Can't we build it on the ground of Blazing Sun territory? Zhou asked curiously. Reporting to my lord, Starry Night has the most perfect spaceship construction and repair system, as a completed spaceship. When you built the first Starry Night spacecraft factory, and the first Black Ghost spacecraft factory in the spacecraft, because I wanted to use these 2 systems to complete these 2 spacecraft factories as soon as possible. With these 2 successful examples in front, the following spacecraft factories can be built on the ground faster and better. When you trailed off, Zhou came to a realization. It turned out that the number 6 and 7 were used as factory experimental sites. Then he chatted with Wuxia for a while. After knowing more about Wuxia's future plans for the spaceship factory, he left Starry Night and returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. After returning to the Lord's Paradise, he first took out 100 fragments of the Proof of Legion. Zhou looked at the fragments. A text notification appeared. Do you want to fuse? Fuse, Zhou said. The next second, the 100 fragments of the Proof of Legion suddenly emitted a faint white light, enveloping all the fragments. After a long time, the white light dissipated. A complete Proof of Legion appeared in Zhou's hand. Zhou used it and saw the Proof of Legion in his hand instantly shatter into countless light spots and condense a line of red words in front of him. Please confirm the name of your kingdom-level army monster army. Zhou said in a low voice. There were more than 100 fragments of the Proof of Legion when he conquered the monster ranch this morning. However, there were many things to do at that time, so he did not have time to use it. Now that he was free, it was time to prepare an official army for the monster army. In the time that followed, Zhou began to fill in the information of the members of the monster army. After filling it in and confirming it, a text notification appeared. You have created your Black Iron Tier army. Lord, the army function has been officially activated. Black Iron Tier army enhancement braveness has been activated. You can increase the level of your army by collecting battle points, thereby obtaining higher-level army buffs and other army benefits. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. The monster army was officially established today. Moreover, the number of his monster ranches was more than twice as many as before. In addition, he focused on nurturing the violent storm demon spirit. The number of Proof of Legion fragments would increase greatly from tomorrow onwards. Perhaps I can gather the next Proof of Legion tomorrow, Zhou thought to himself. There were so many troops and types in his territory. The official formation of the 2 legions was naturally far from enough. For example, the Heavenly Army needed an independent army. He had more and more dragon subordinates now, but he did not enjoy the various benefits of an official army formation. Therefore, he had to get an official army formation for his dragon subordinates after he gathered the Proof of Legion. After that, he could also consider giving the Starfire mercenary team an official army. Lastly, the Lords of the Star Alliance had an increasing number of troops. Therefore, in the future, in order to make it easier for them to manage the army under them, and increase the combat strength of the army, they would definitely need things like the Proof of Legion. This Proof of Legion is also a very important resource. Zhou sighed. If that was the case, he needed more than 10 sets of Proof of Legion. It seemed that he had to make the Violent Storm Demon Spirit that produced the Proof of Legion, the Violent Storm Spirit Recruitment Books, the Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate, and the Thunder Element Gems as a fixture in the Monster Ranch. The Violent Storm Demon Spirit would definitely not be taken away from the Monster Ranch, at least for a long time in the future. Then, he stopped thinking about other things and took out the Greedy Wolf Totem to study it. At the same time, Lu Kaier was in the injured camp, treating the injured with a group of doctors and clergymen. Lu Kaier walked out of the injured camp late at night. She could not help but smile when the cries of pain gradually stopped in the injured camp. She was sincerely happy to see the soldiers recover under her medical skills. Even though I haven't treated anyone for many years, but am still good at it. Lu Kaier was very satisfied with her performance today. Then, she stretched and was about to return to her residence to rest. At this moment, she was suddenly stunned. This was because she suddenly noticed that her Immortal Divine Medicine Doctor level had unknowingly increased from Diamond Tier Elementary Grade to Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. She could not help but open her mouth in disbelief. How did this happen? Even though she had been asleep for a long time, she still felt that she was still a distance away from the Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade before she came today. Normally speaking, she should be able to advance to the Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade within half a year to a year. Why did she break through now? She was very puzzled. Then, she walked back to her residence and began to think about what she had done today that allowed her to advance by leaps and bounds and save so much time. However, she did not think that she had done anything special until she reached home. She had passed on knowledge to higher-level doctors today other than teaching the doctors in the territory. After the Lord returned with the injured soldiers, she directly entered the injured camp and began to treat the injured soldiers' injuries. She didn't do anything special. Just as she was feeling puzzled, a will-o-wisp suddenly flashed across her mind. No, there was something special about today. Lu Kaier remembered. When she was treating the injured soldiers today, for some reason, her mind was especially clear and her reaction was especially sensitive. When she used the medical knowledge she had, more medical theories actually appeared in her mind. There were only 2 ways for physicians to raise their level. The first was to treat a large number of patients effectively and accumulate healing experience to obtain promotion energy to increase the level of a doctor. The second was to master more medical theory knowledge through studying medical classics. As long as one mastered enough theoretical knowledge of the medical path and used it to the point of proficiency, the promotion energy needed for a doctor to advance would naturally increase continuously and complete the breakthrough of the doctor level. Lu Kaier's actions during the day coincided with the doctor's advancement method. At that time, she did not pay much attention to this strange state. She only thought that she was talented in the path of medicine. She only realized that something was wrong when she had the time to rest. Your army formation: Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array. Defense and counterattack ability rating: perfect. Your army formation: Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array. S Random Crisis Responsibility rating: perfect. Congratulations, you have perfectly mastered the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array. Do you want to end this battle? Zhou smiled when he saw these comments. The night he spent was not in vain. He had finally grasped this Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array. Furthermore, he grasped it perfectly without any blind spots. Now, even the creator of the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array might not be able to compare to him in terms of theoretical understanding and practical use of the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array. He had already far surpassed Wuxia and Baiyun. The reason why he could master the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array so quickly was not only because of his many bloodlines, but also because his aptitude and comprehension far exceeded ordinary people. Wu Xin's talent, ability to grasp situation thoroughly, and hero skill, desired military morale was also an important reason why he could master the greedy wolf howling moon array in such a short period of time. I finally know what it's like to be a military genius. Zhou stretched and thought contentedly. Of course, apart from the above reasons, this battle array room was also one of the important reasons why he could master the greedy wolf howling moon array so quickly. This military formation duel room could not only create virtual battlefields, virtual allies, and virtual enemies, but it also made him truly feel what it was like to use military formations on the actual battlefield. He could also point out the various imperfections when he used the military formation at any time and correct them in real time. This was how he utilized the night. In the beginning, he spent time comprehending the greedy wolf howling moon array on the greedy wolf totem. He spent the rest of his time on the virtual battlefield. He had perfectly grasped the usage of the greedy wolf howling moon array after more than 10 virtual battle array battles in a row. In the future, generals who learn military formations can come here to cultivate in seclusion. I guarantee that I can master the usage of the military formation in a short period of time. Zhou thought. Then he waved his right hand casually. The greedy wolf totem that was placed not far away suddenly flew over and landed in his hand. Now that he could perfectly control the greedy wolf howling moon array, he could naturally set up the greedy wolf howling moon array without relying on the greedy wolf totem, like Bai Yin and Wu Xian. It's time to give this greedy wolf howling moon array to other generals. Zhou stood up and walked out of the battle room, walking out of the beginner grade Lord's Paradise. Zhou opened the world channel on his way. A large number of lords were still discussing and chatting enthusiastically on the world channel, even though it was only 3 in the morning. Zhou glanced at it. He realized that most of them were talking about today's events in the final battlefield. Today is the last day of the final battlefield. I wonder how many ranking points I can get today. Big shot above, are you still in the final battlefield? I couldn't move at night, and am afraid that it'll be crushed into pieces by the terrifying violent storm the next day. So I didn't dare to go the next day. Me too. I'm really scared. The final battlefield is not a place that ordinary lords can be in. Today is the last day of the final battlefield. I'm afraid there will be a fierce battle on the battlefield today. It's useless. My Alliance Master is invincible. That's right. Our leader of the Blazing Sun Alliance has obtained first place on the rankings of the final battlefield. Moreover, there's already a considerable gap between him and the true lord in second place. The chances of the other party catching up and surpassing him are not high. Big Boss Blazing Sun is fierce, but you can't make a judgment so easily until the end. I feel that those top lords of the myriad races are going to exert their strength today. Your Alliance Master might not be able to keep the first place. Can Big Boss Blazing Sun really get first place? Previous poster. Are the true Lord, Great One Lord, and Heaven-chasing lords useless? Do you know how terrifying the power of civilization of the top lords of the myriad races is? How can a civilization that has been around for thousands of years compare to a civilization that has been around for tens of thousands of years? It's a good thing to be confident about our races, but you can't be arrogant. I don't care. I will support Big Boss Blazing Sun unconditionally at this moment, as a human from the Cerulean planet, even if we are to be enemies one day in the future. That's right. Big Boss Blazing Sun charge. Best of luck, Alliance Master. The other lords who are still in the final battlefield can't admit defeat easily either. Zhou looked at what the lord said for a while and stopped looking. At this moment, he suddenly felt something and turned to look in the direction of Luo Sheng and Wu Tu's residence. What a coincidence. These two people actually woke up at the same time. Zhou did not hesitate and stood up to walk towards them. Chapter 451 Soul Arrow, Wu Tu. However, just as Zhou walked out of the beginner grade Lord's Paradise, he saw a beautiful figure waiting for him at the door. It was Lu Kai'er. Zhou was stunned. Lu Kai'er's eyes lit up when he saw him. Then, she immediately came to him. I didn't expect the soldiers to be right. You're really up early. I thought I would have to wait for a while. Do you need me for something? Zhou reacted. Lu Kaier nodded and told him about her sudden breakthrough. She also asked Zhou if it was because of his territory. Zhou thought for a moment and had a guess. I think I have an idea why. Go take a look at the Imperial Ancestral Temple in my territory. The ancestors of our cerulean planet are worshipped in the race building of the Imperial Ancestral Temple. One of the human ancestors is called Sun Simiao. His ancestral enhancement effect is to help the physician professionals in the territory. When treating illnesses and saving people, there is a chance that they will comprehend more medical theories and increase the probability of breaking through by 10%. The reason why you can suddenly comprehend medical knowledge and break through on the immortal divine medicine doctor should be related to ancestor Sun Simiao. Zhou explained patiently. The two of them had just woken up and should still be familiarizing themselves with their hero abilities. He did not have to rush over too quickly. He would resolve this person's doubts first. I see. I knew there was something wrong with my breakthrough, Lu Kaier said suddenly. She decided to pay her respects to the human ancestor of the cerulean planet, Sun Simiao, later. Even though this cerulean planet's human ancestor was not her ancestor, he was at least a human like her, and taught her, and cleared her doubts. He could be said to be a teacher of hers. Even though Lu Kaier had a willful personality, she had been taught since she was young to respect her teacher. She would still complete basic etiquette. Where are you going? Then, the two of them chatted for a while. Lu Kaier suddenly thought of something and asked curiously. Zhou did not hide anything from Lu Kaier, who was now his subject. He told him about Wu Tu and Luosheng. Lu Kaier was shocked. Two heroes. Her teacher's status was not low in the entire human race, so she had come into contact with many heroes since she was young. She also became a hero when she grew up too. However, this did not make her feel that heroes were very ordinary people. On the contrary, it was precisely because of this that she understood the meaning of having the two new heroes even more. Moreover, as far as she knew, there were more than two heroes in this territory. Now there were actually two more. I think I've joined an amazing territory. Lu Kaier was surprised. Zhou, how many heroes are there in our territory? She could not help but ask curiously. 7 of them, including you. Zhou thought for a moment and said, Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction, Nazario Bloodfire Arrow Elf, Bai Yun, Dragon Horse Spear General Wu Xian, 10-Directional Martial Emperor, Feng Luo, Immortal Divine Medicine Doctor, Lu Kaier Soul Arrow, Wu Tu, Ghost God General, Luosheng. This did not include the unused hero inheritance slot in the Night Temple. Otherwise there would be 8 heroes. Lu Kaier's mouth fell open. 7 heroes. This was much stronger than many veteran kingdom-level factions. Zhou looked at the girl in front of him and could guess what she was thinking. However, he did not say much. He only said that he wanted to see the 2 new heroes. When Lu Kaier heard this, she immediately said that she wanted to take a look together. Zhou did not refuse. Then, the two of them walked towards Wu Tu's residence. Soldiers were guarding this place to prevent anyone from entering and disturbing the existence inside. These soldiers had been guarding the people inside ever since they received the order last night. At this moment, they saw the Lord walking over, and the doctor beside him, who had saved many of their brothers yesterday. Greetings, my lord. Greetings, medical immortal. The soldiers and subjects said. Zhou and Lu Kai smiled and nodded. Creak. The door suddenly opened. Then Wu Tu and Luosheng walked out and bowed respectfully to Zhou. Greetings, my lord. After the two of them sensed the lord's aura, they immediately emerged before they had the time to check their hero abilities. Get up. Zhou smiled and felt the aura emitted by the two of them. Then he sensed that the auras around the two of them were already quite perfect and powerful. Moreover, they naturally emitted the pressure of a hero slot with extremely strong suppression. However, it could be seen that the two of them were trying their best to control this pressure. It was just that this was the first time they had encountered this, and were a little unfamiliar with it. Looks like the two of you have perfectly inherited your respective hero slots. Zhou smiled. This is all thanks to my lord. The two of them suppressed their excitement and said respectfully. When the surrounding soldiers in charge of guarding heard this, they immediately looked at the two of them enviously. They had already heard about it. The two people in front of them had been bestowed with the extremely precious hero inheritance precisely because they had been recognized by the Lord. This alone was not what the soldiers envied the most. What made them the most envious was that one of them was an underage youth. He was bestowed the hero inheritance by the Lord because he had followed the Lord for a long time and made many contributions. The other person's hero inheritance came from the military merit quests issued by the Lord. This young soldier called Luosheng had completed the Lord's military merit quests under fair competition. That was why he obtained this hero inheritance that countless people envied. The subjects of the Blazing Sun territory, naturally, had no objections to the Lord distributing the hero inheritance like this. Instead, they revered their Lord even more. All the living beings in the high continent knew how precious the hero inheritance was. However, their Lord was willing to let them compete fairly. It could be seen that the Lord really did not treat them as outsiders. At the same time, Zhou smiled when he saw their reactions. Then, he looked at their attribute information. Subject: Wu2 Hero Unit. Hero Title: Soul Arrow. Position: Epic Tier Heroes. Fate Level: Territory: Blazing Sun Territory. Strength Level: Diamond Tier Elementary Grade. Ability Overview: He had the talent of image memory ever since he was young. He could record the scenery he saw with his brush. He took the initiative to join the army and became a military cartographer for the sake of his family's livelihood. Later, he joined the Blazing Sun territory and became a cartographer valued by the Lord of the Blazing Sun. He made many contributions to the Lord of the Blazing Sun's conquest of the territory and was bestowed with the hero inheritance, becoming the legendary Soul Arrow. Bloodline: Human Bloodline. Yellow Gold Tier Intermediate Grade. 100%. Skills: Talent Image Memory. Hero Skill: Heaven and Earth Heart Arrow. Hero Skill: Great Ice Seal. Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Enhanceable Flying Arrow Clone Technique. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade Map Making Skill. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade Terrain Recognition. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade Monster Recognition. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade Medicinal Herb Recognition. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade Mineral Recognition. White Platinum Tier Intermediate Grade Map. Kingdom Beginning City. Yellow Gold Tier Advanced Grade Map. Dark Night Town. White Silver Tier Advanced Grade Green Forest. Loyalty: 100. Potential: Epic Tier Advanced Grade. Hero Biography 1. He explored a large number of enemy territories and the distribution of enemy forces for the human Lord of the Blazing Sun, and made countless contributions before he became a hero. He was the sharp blade in the hands of the Lord of the Blazing Sun, making countless fog monsters and people of foreign races fear him. Hero's Personal Reputation Rating +1. Human Race Reputation +100. 2. Under the blessing of the human Lord, Lord of the Blazing Sun, he obtained the hero inheritance of the Soul Arrow and became the 4th generation Soul Arrow. Hero's Personal Reputation Rating +1. Human Race Reputation +10,000. High Continent Reputation +5. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.